let's blast off and let's get it started. Let's get it twisted. It's so crazy how much this shit happens. Like, okay. Trump calls his base that cares about Epstein bad people. Zoran meets YC CEOs. Israel strikes Syria. Can you talk about the doers in Syria and Israel? Yes, dude. Yes, I will. I will. Obviously, it's in my fucking title. Okay, I'm gonna talk about that. It's a big story. It's a big news story for the day. Do not worry. Fear not. It will be covered. Okay, I promise you. I promise. Okay, I promise I will cover this. It will not be a story that I choose not to cover, in spite of the fact that I put it in my fucking article title. Okay. Do you think I'm cheating on you? Like, do you think I'm just like secretly putting the Syria thing in the fucking title of the stream? But my hope is to not cover it. Like, I'm actually trying to expertly craft this secret narrative. I don't have, I have this like secret ambition that I don't want to talk about what's going on in Syria, even though I literally put it on the fucking stream title. Fuck! Arizona primary results. Hasana's so pissy today. Yeah, maybe I'm pissy because I just started and I've literally fucking had, dude, I do tests, okay? When I get started, when I start my broadcast, I do tests beforehand. And literally up until the point of the actual stream, up until the point that I actually start the stream, there's no issues. And the moment that I fucking start the stream, there's like multiple F's. I don't know what it is and I don't know how to fix it. I'm like spending every waking moment worrying about this shit on the background. It's just really annoying. That's it. Sorry. It's so fucking lame that this shit keeps persisting. I want to put the political commentary in the bag. I want to do that. I want to put the political commentary in the bag, and my ISP or my computer or just like the powers that be are just stopping me from putting the political commentary in the bag. Yes, there is a new setup coming. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Anyway, no worries, bro. We'll be patient. It feels like I'm cursed. It's just like everything just keeps falling apart on the stream, and I don't know what it is. And it was so consistent. Like back in the day, they start the show. Don't have to worry about any of this shit. Now, every day, there's like a million different problems when I'm on my fucking main studio. You're acting like a 14-year-old. Grow the fuck up and do your job. Calm down. It's no fun when you are such a big baby. All right, well, take a week off. There's no equivalent on the planet where you're trying to do your fucking job and there's literally 20,000 people just like in your ear chirping at you, okay? And it's not even your fucking fault. There's not really anything you can do about it. Literally might be the feds. I don't think the feds would be doing this. I think they would just like shut my shit off entirely. They wouldn't just be like tweaking my shit. All right, we blasted off. Okay, Trump calls the base that cares about Epstein bad people. Zoran meets New York City CEOs. Israel strikes Syria. AZ primary results. There's a lot to talk about, but we'll obviously start off with this. Apparently, I got mentioned by Gianmarco.
I'm going to talk about politics, but I want to be careful. Because you may have read, there's a famous streamer, Twitch streamer named Hassan Piker. He's very good, and he talks about politics a lot online. And he left America for like work, I think, and then when he flew back, he got detained at the airport. And I'm honestly, I fly back tomorrow, and I'm truly so scared. They're not going to know who the fuck I am. I'll show my passport like Jamarcus Horazi. I don't even think borders should exist. And they'll be like, right this way. I'll be like, no, wait, look at this. Here's a clip where I say if Elphaba was real, she'd be a member of Hamas. And they'll have to usher me into the country. I'll be like, no, my cousin's Luigi Mangione, I swear.
Dude, we're getting a bunch of cheers at a random comedy shows. Huge motion. We're winning, bro. I mean, Gianmarco has a very similar audience to mine. We got to do that collab soon, for sure. Yeah, he's been popping off. He has been putting out banger after banger after banger. Oh, I forgot to watch the Will Neff dunking on Beitar without even trying. This went a little viral, actually, as a matter of fact. And let's hit that with a retweet. I was gonna cover this. Superman Super Woke. I briefly covered it yesterday. Beitar got real fucking mad. Will and I went. Willie Boy and I went and watched Superman Super Woke together. And this motherfucker had tears in his eyes. I don't know if he actually revealed this to you guys, but I swear to God, Will is a major DC head. Okay, he's a major DC fanboy. He grew up with DC. He's always been a DC fan. He's always loved comic books. He's always loved comic book movies, and Caroline told us about it all last night. I mean, I teared up too. I've definitely teared up. But Will literally was like Will was Will was like actually crying, which was kind of cool. He loved it. He was like, movies are back. DC is back. And it really is. It really is. It was a very faithful comic book adaptation, and I was very stoked to watch it. I've obviously given you my takes, but here's what Will, I guess, had to say about at least a part of the movie.
But the most brilliant thing that Gunn did was Baravia is Israel, obviously, and they're cartoonishly evil in the film, right? So no one who supports Israel can look at it and go, well, Baravia is supposed to be Israel, because they then would have to admit that what they are doing in real life is cartoonishly evil. It's such a brilliant, like, oh, Baravia made you think of Israel? What about it? What about what they were doing? No, tell. No, tell. No. Go ahead, tell me. The supervillain stuff? Is that what reminded you of them? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's just comic book stuff, man. It's just
yeah, why you got to bring politics into everything? Yeah, it's awesome. I sent my lady friend your super woke video on Ben Shapiro, and she said your analysis was incredible. Thanks, Unc. You're welcome. Yeah, Baravia was also, Superman was created by two Jewish immigrants in like the 30s. And ironically enough, Baravia was also invented by these two Jewish immigrant writers way before Israel even existed. But its modern adaptation of Baravia, this like fictional country that is maybe really close to a real country, was a deliberate choice. And I love it personally because like there's been a lot of back and forth on this stuff, and even Variety wrote about it, and they were talking about, is it Israel, is it not Israel? But I think James Gunn did a decent job of just like offering plausible deniability. He did a decent job of like doing it in a way where it's like very clearly what it is. And I was thinking about this. I was talking to someone about this actually, and they were like, hey, do you not remember like James Gunn is the one who made the Nazi killer thing? Because like I was watching on HBO the animated DC sequence. I forget what it is. It's like not Suicide Squad, but it's like kind of, what was it called? But Creature Commandos. And it's really good. Creature Commandos is really good. And I forgot that was James Gunn as well. And Creature Commandos is like very openly anti-fascist. Creature Commandos is very openly anti-fascist. And like there is a character in it, the GI robot. And it's a GI robot that they created specifically to kill Nazis. And this robot is then like bought and refurbished by like a dude who is, you know, an alt-right Nazi guy in modern day. And he brings him into the fucking Nazi meeting. And GI Robot's like, oh, these guys are fucking Nazis. It just starts killing all of the Trump supporters who are in this like in this room, like just straight doming them. It's a fucking fantastic segment in Creature Commandos. And it made me, I remembered like, oh yeah, that was Gunn. Yeah, he actually, wow, one Superman movie and everyone is pro-gun now. Yeah, no more gun control. Hashtag liberate the gun. Okay, so like it's obvious that James Gunn does have these politics. I totally had forgotten that's like the type of dude. That's like the type of mentality that he has on this. So yeah, here's the Antifa. Basically, the rest of it is whatever. Dude, it's so funny. There's like, I don't know anything about. I mean, I've heard the song before. I don't know anything about the backstory of like who's singing this song. But it is hilarious that like as soon as the song came on, everyone's like, this song is sung by a Nazi. This song is actually a lady gooning to her vibrator. This song is actually conducted by a sex trafficking rapist. It's like, I don't know anything and I don't care. Okay, I don't care. Please. Stop trying to put this information in my head. I don't listen to music. I'm never going to listen to music ever again. And, you know, this doesn't say anything to me. Okay? I don't care. I literally don't care. Please stop trying to inform me. I'm letting you know right now, I don't know I don't know the veracity of these claims, and I don't want to know. Okay? What will this do to me? What will this do if I knew all of this stuff about whoever this person is that's singing the song? What will that do? Sometimes you have to think like, what do you listen to when you work out? I don't listen to any music. I listen to podcasts when I work out. You sound like a gaming frog. No, it's just like there's stuff that's like relevant, and then there's like an exaggerated claim half the time too. And then there's stuff that's just like completely irrelevant to my world. I don't care. I will never listen to this song ever again. It's just like, I don't care. Just stop trying to inform me. I don't need more information in my mind. Okay. That's it. Yeah. Forbes also, we're talking about Superman anyway, because it's like not pertinent to the conversation. Do you understand what I mean? It is utterly irrelevant to the main conversation. We got here because I was talking about James Gunn's politics, and you want to talk about some whole different shit, and I don't care about that shit at all. It is completely and utterly inconsequential to the grand scheme, to the main argument that I was conducting, to the main argument that I was presenting here. Anyway, not wanting to have more information in your mind is such a vibe. Yes, it is. And I think that is like a good and healthy attitude to have. Sometimes it's like better to not know things, okay? Especially if they're like utterly inconsequential. So, yeah, Forbes and Variety both wrote about this. Variety wrote a new day for DC, breaking down Superman salaries, budgets, and more. Studio fast tracks Wonder Woman and its future. They're not going with Gal Gadot, by the way. Okay, your worst take, but it's okay. Yeah, no, Kal-El, no. But also, yeah, Kal-El, no. But yeah, there is Nicholas Hoult, who plays arch-villain Lex Luthor, nabbed $2 million payday. Is this, guys, can I ask a question without people saying like I'm out of touch and super rich or whatever? But am I crazy? I feel like back in the day when like top actors were in big budget productions like this, they would make more than 2 mil. Isn't that low? Like that's a shit ton of money. Don't misunderstand me. But isn't that kind of like I feel like when movie stars would be like a villain in a franchise flick like this, they would get way higher fucking fees than this, right? Is there something changing in Hollywood, or is Nicholas Hoult just not considered like a top actor, like an A-lister? Is he considered like a B-lister? Is that what it is? But even if he's a B-lister, it's like wild that he is, I mean, he's the main antagonist in this fucking DC franchise flick. Like that's crazy. That actually was like a little bit shocking. The film cost $225 million, another $125 million to market globally. The latter including pricey stunts like a Superman figure hovering over the apex of London's tallest building, blah, blah, blah. Typically film stars earn top salaries, but in this case, Goma was by far the highest earner, pulling in 20 times more than David Cornswet and Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane, who each earned 750 bills. The Gunn's 15 million. What? Bro. That's crazy. My dude made 700. Dude, what kind of a fucking planet are we living in where I, a fucking random Twitch streamer, can get approached with a one-day advertisement scheme that I said no to famously, if you guys recall, where I would get paid more than motherfucking an actor in a Hollywood. What is going on? The thing that I'm talking about was what was it? Predicted or Polymarket? Polymarket wanted me to Polymarket wanted to sponsor my election coverage, and the starting ask from them, which means that they would go up a lot more, was $1 million. And I said no to it because I was like, I'm not gonna fucking do a gambling ad for politics. What are you, crazy? But and then a day later they got raided by the FBI. But that's besides the point. My point, my larger point here is like, it's crazy that like I can be approached as a Twitch streamer for a higher fucking a higher paid gig for one day than like the fucking protagonist of Superman. Oh, by the way, Polymarket, Trump administration ends Polymarket investigations without charges. Shouts out to Polymarket, totally exonerated. Nothing wrong, no wrongdoing, because the Trump administration has decided they're cool. So maybe I should have taken that mill, or maybe I should have demanded 3 mil and then taken it. I don't know. They probably get hella royalties and money from merchandise. No, I know, but they used to get that back in the day too, for the record. So like, this means that like they're getting that and they're getting points and like the salary, which means that the salary is like significantly lower. Nicholas Hoult got 2 mil, more than Superman. That's crazy. Warner Brothers declined to comment. But in any case, Superman largely avoided stepping into culture wars until too late in the film's run-up to make a difference. Gunn's brother Sean, who plays Maxwell Lord in the film, told Variety at the premiere, "We love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant. And yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants. And if you don't like that, you're not American." On the other side of the political divide, Frank Grillo, who plays Rick Flag Sr., sparked a ripple of anti-MAGA outrage when he liked an opening weekend social media post released by the White House depicting President Donald Trump as Man of Steel with the caption, "The symbol of hope." Wait, what? Frank Grillo, who plays Rick Flag Sr., liked the Trump thing? Ew, gross. Anyway, whatever. But one hot button issue is resonating with some moviegoers. Pro-Palestine activists and influencers are hailing the film on social media for what they see as an overt rebuke of Israel in the wake of its deadly military campaign in Gaza. In the film, Lex Luthor has started a foreign war and is making billions off the conflict. The aggressor nation, dubbed Bavaria, drops bombs and oppresses his desert neighbor until Superman saves the day. Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, who has a massive following, called the film 2 hours and like 10 minutes of fuck Israel the entire time, a sentiment echoed across social media on opening weekend. However, the film's timeline might not align with Israel as a stand-in for Bavaria. Gunn turned in his script on May 2023, months before the current Israel-Gaza conflict escalated. Yeah, except it was an ongoing incident, and it hasn't started on October 7. It was definitely a thing that was existing far before October 7. And not only that, but also, you can still you can still make tweaks on the villainous character after you have put the script in. It's not like an unchanging situation. Yeah. Also, Bavaria existed in the comics before Israel was a state. Also, Brittany Broski had David Cornswet on, and I'm feeling like maybe I could do that too, but I don't know. I feel like I might be a little bit too controversial for Hollywood still at this stage, especially given, I say Bavaria, sorry, Baravia, especially given my current takes. Anyway, bro, he's a gamer. He'll never come on. A little too spicy. No shot you could get him. Technically lives in PA with his wife and daughter. Superman's probably not allowed to take any non-exclusive stances, even good ones. Hassan is too ambitious. I love that. I mean, I don't think it's that ambitious. I think if you don't step on any landmines, you can do that. But I like that in the process of me going through this story, I revealed that like I turned down an opportunity to be paid more than David Cornswet for 1 day of work. And you're still in here being like, nah, dude, you're just ambitious like that. No, I don't think so. I think we live in a very different age now where streamers do have fucking motion. And I was wrong. You know, podcasters and streamers, we got motion for sure. Sounds like magnitude bias. Maybe. Did you say Atrioc X Lena Khan podcast? No, I didn't say that. I don't know why you keep saying I said that, but I'm glad that the Lena Khan went on the pod. Gunn says in this video from yesterday that some of the movie is now more relevant than when he wrote it.
Things in the world today in reality. In fact, a few things that are more like the world today than when we made the movie 2 years ago. But it really was all from a storytelling perspective of what would Superman...
I wonder what he could be referencing when he says that. I mean, it could literally... It's perfect, though. It's a perfect statement because he could just literally be like, oh, Superman's an immigrant and this administration is anti-immigrant. And it's very obvious, like, this is Superman getting attacked relentlessly about anti-immigrant. He could say it about Ukraine and Russia if he wanted to, but we know what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down, big dog. Okay. Also, it is pretty funny. I'm just realizing at this moment, and maybe it's because I'm stupid and I didn't realize it, but like, it's pretty funny that his character on Creature Commandos is a self-insert. Like, he just made himself like super hot and brolic in Creature Commandos. Like, the main character in Creature Commandos is literally him, like the same hair and everything. Hashtag the gun is aimed at Israel. We're all hashtag reloading the gun. Isn't James Gunn a pedophile? I saw his tweets. Are we really doing this still? Like, who is still doing this in 2025? Who the fuck is still doing this in 2025? It's like, I don't like, this is the one guy. This is the lonely Japanese Imperial Army soldier holding on to the notion that the Philippines is Japanese territory still. It's a Japanese colony 30 years after the war ended, okay? He's like, nah, dude, I live for this shit, okay? You don't understand. This motherfucker made edgy tweets that were like, this motherfucker in 2009, way that I don't like it. That says a lot about him today. Oh God, here we go. Here we fucking go. Right on the dot. Right on the dot. Little baby F. We're good. We're gonna be good. It's gonna be fine. Calm down, folks. We're back already. We're back already. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up, folks. But yeah. Bro, it's literally Rick Flag Sr., not fucking James Gunn. I think he made himself. I think he just like made the hair like that. I just feel like it's a self-insert a little bit. But yeah, we got Trump Epstein stuff, which we're going to be talking about today, considering that Trump seemingly doesn't want to let this go. Congress wants vets to swear an oath they won't commit suicide. That'll make the suicide rates of veterans drop down to 0. For sure. But yeah, we got the New York Times is insane reporting on the Arizona primary, which was so stupid. But before we do all of that, obviously, there are a couple truths. There are a couple things that are always going to happen in the world. Okay? There are a couple things that are always going to happen. The world is going to keep turning. Okay? The sun's going to come up every morning. And Israel's going to bomb yet another country. Okay? They have to do it. If Israel doesn't bomb another neighboring country, they will literally explode. Do you want Israel to explode? It is really fucked up. This is just a thing Israel has to do. Do you understand? Yeah. The only things that are certain in life are death, taxes, and Israel fucking up a neighboring country. It has to happen. And yet, of course, because it has to happen, it happened again. Israel is striking Syria's capital, Damascus. Your latest YouTube thumbnail, Lex Shapiro hates Superman. Super woke sucks. That's funny. Yes. If Israel's hatred drops below 80%, it'll blow up. Yeah. You don't understand. You don't understand. Israel has to blow up neighboring countries. What the fuck? You're being anti-Semitic. You are being anti-Semitic if you don't think Israel has to blow up other countries, okay? They have to.
We have some breaking news this morning. In Syria, there are some strikes by Israel because there were attacks in that northern...
Dude, this is so funny. This is so funny that they're just like trying to contextualize it immediately. And they're like, there were some attacks, I think. I don't fucking know. Whatever. Israel's blowing up another country. If you ever say anything about it, you're fucking anti-Semitic. Shut up.
Region, that northern border region, and Israel's not going to stand for it. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, just a little bit ago at the State Department said, guys, maybe you want to back off, tamp it down a little bit. But this is a unfolding situation and some breaking news, and that's why Trey Yingst is going to join us from Tel Aviv for an update. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Dana, good morning. All of these Israeli strikes taking place in response to violence that is erupting in the Sweda province of southern Syria. There is a Druze population in southern Syria that is supported by the Israeli government. So when violence erupted there earlier this week, the Israelis began to carry out a series of airstrikes against Syrian government tanks that were approaching the city. There was concern that they would participate in the fighting that was being done between the Druze and a Syrian Sunni Bedouin tribe. Now, as this was erupting, there were warnings and conversations taking place with Israeli officials using back channels to speak with the Syrian government, telling them not to enter the Sweda province because it could be a threat not only to Israel as these forces got closer to Israeli territory, but also to the Druze minority population there. Whenever the government forces continued forward, the
Where have I heard this song and dance before? Using an ethnic minority and protecting an ethnic minority in the region as a reasoning for why you must bomb another country. I mean, this is just fucking big nation shit, okay? Russia being like, we have to protect the ethnic Russians in Ukraine. America will be like, it's even more laughable. America will be like, oh, we love the Kurds. We need to help the Kurds develop a nation state. Oops, just kidding. We actually don't want to do that. We just want to weaponize Kurdish militias in the region against anyone that we feel is not fully on board and fully invested in what's going on with our agenda. And of course, Israel is using the Druze. Now, this doesn't mean that like all Druze people in like Syria are anti-HDS. Doesn't even mean that HDS is good. You know, I'm not a fucking I'm not a fan of the former Al-Qaeda leader turned into institution defender himself. Okay, but it is kind of crazy that Jelani is basically doing everything he fucking can. The bizarre part of the story is that the violence against the Druze is primarily by other actors, not the government. Israel's using flimsy excuses of protecting ethnic minorities just to carve up southern Syria. The arrogance to tell a sovereign state that they can't deploy their own army in their own borders is just insane. Is it insane, or are you anti-Semitic? Is it insane, or is this Jew hatred? Okay, that's the question you must be asking yourself right now. And the answer always is you hate Israel and you hate Jewish people. That's probably the reason. Israel should be able to bomb a sovereign country whenever they see fit by using flimsy excuses. Okay? Excuse me. Hello? Am Israel high? Calm down. It's for democracy. Now, this is an incredibly fucked up situation because, as I've explained over and over again, like Syria is currently being picked apart by two American allies. From the northern side, you have Turkey and Turkish control. Turkey is a major player in this. Turkey played a major role in overthrowing Assad, right? And then Israel is coming in from the south. They both have ambitions of maintaining control over it. Turkey obviously is a regional power as well as Israel is. And they have their own ambitions. They have their own motivations here. And they're kind of at odds with one another, even though they're both America's lapdogs in the region. So I guess after spending years and years of defending ISIS-style forces in Syria, the al-Nusra Front, for example, Israel has decided this is the one former al-Qaeda guy that they do not like, in spite of the reality that Jelani has done everything in his power to basically be as servile as he fucking possibly can be to Israel's interests. Okay, they're intercepting weapons transfers to Hezbollah. They're literally, I mean, they're doing everything. Israel destroyed the Syrian military. Okay, as soon as HTS came into power, they said, please, sir, please bomb all of our fucking military equipment. It's okay. They didn't say shit. They literally have been running around. HTS has been fucking running around being like, how much more can we do for you, sir? Okay. How much more can we do for you, Israel? We love you. Here's Charles Lister, who obviously I like to hear from when it's anything related not to Syria, but here he is talking about Syria. I won't go so far as to say he's a little bit in the tank for HTS. In 7 months, Israel's done the following in Syria: 987 air and artillery strikes, 421 ground incursions, occupied 180 square kilometers of land. In response, the Syrian government has done 0 attacks, filed 2 UN Security Council complaints, seized 49 Hezbollah weapon shipments headed to Lebanon. HTS also shuttered any sort of pro-Palestinian operation in Syria. There were still some nascent groups that were aligned or were directly that had like Palestinians in them in Syria. HTS shut them up, shut them down. Most Druze leadership in the city are with HTS on this. Israel is arming the Syrian version of Abu Shabab al-Hajri, except he already has more influence, so it's more devastating to do separation and stuff. So Israel can do divide and conquer and unleash division. Yeah, from what I understand, outside of all the Druze sects, there's like one guy that Israel is tapped in with, And of course, they're using that one fucking group to be like, oh, you're attacking our big, beautiful Druze population, and we really care about them. And that's why we have to bomb you. Druze leader Walid Jumblat, Israel is using some Druze figures to stir unrest in Syria under the guise of protecting Druze communities. You know, classic shit, classic divide and conquer shit. And it's crazy because like, Jolani, also known as Zelensky, okay? I mean, he did everything. He shaved, he put the fatigues on, he put the suit and tie on. He was like, I am your most loyal servant, Western Empire. I will do everything for you. Like, can we please, you know, I'll build a Trump Tower in Damascus. Like, fuck it, whatever you want, okay? He did literally everything. And Israel still's like, well, you do have land that we want. As a Druze myself, gay, so not really, I guess. We are so easily influenced, it's disappointing. I mean, it's not even like, this is not about the Druze and their interest in like emancipation or anything like that. Okay, please. Like, America's involvement with the Kurdish militias does not have like a real emancipatory goal. They just want to use the Kurds, and then they will literally write them off instantly and will tell the Turks to do whatever the fuck they want in Kurdish villages. Saying it's land that Israel wants is anti-Semitic. They have a right to it. Oh, fuck, you're right. It's greater Israel, you know? So, and they already have given land, for the record. They have already given land to Israel. Like, Israel is already occupying Syrian territory beyond Golan Heights. Ironically, where Zelensky is from. Houthi official on the idea of bombing of Damascus. We do not distribute baklava to gloat over those who gloated over our bombardment, for our compass is firmly set towards the true enemy of the nation, Israel. Toward it, we direct our missiles, to strike its depths and shatter its expansionist delusions. So, yeah. What happened is, and I gave you guys like, a more in-depth analysis on this, but like, the Syrian civil war is incredibly complicated in some ways. Because like, it's incredibly complicated, but like almost every single faction, with the exception of Assad, Russia, and Iran, and obviously the IRGC plus Hezbollah, every single side in the Syrian civil war, except for these four that I'm mentioning, is in some way, shape, or form tied back to America, either by way of Israel or directly, you know, ISIS and ISIS-style groups in the region, or Turkey. Okay, which is America's NATO ally and has played a very important role in the destabilization of Syria, and then also the overtaking of the thwarting of the Assad government. So basically, Assad is also tied by way of Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, that's, I mean, I guess kind of. Assad does have American government involvement as well, technically, if you think about Tulsi Gabbard and her role in this. But ultimately, it's a conflict where like America has basically funded all sides, including warring factions, right? Because on the one hand, America, by way of the CIA, and has directly offered logistical help and you know, weapons to the Kurdish militias in Rojava, right? And those guys have been directly in conflict with the Turkish mobilization in Syria. The Free Syrian Army, backed by the Turkish government, that gets training from the Turkish government, NATO ally, remember, is a brigade, is basically like a brigade of different Salafist militias from all around the world, from Turkic nations all the way to Xinjiang, right? They have Uyghurs in there as well. If you ever see like a Chinese dude throwing up the Allahu Akbar, just know that that's like a Turkish-backed militia group. Some of them will then join ISIS as well. It's really interesting. But regardless, like you have an eclectic group of what you would consider like what Americans think are like jihadis that are under the banner of the Turkish mobilization in Syria. And those guys are constantly fighting with the Kurdish militias as well, because Turkey wants to wipe out and maintain control over any sort of Kurdish territory in Syria. That's their national security concern. So like They're literally fighting amongst themselves, but both sides are fucking funded by America. Both sides are being trained by America, either by way of Turkey or directly being trained by the United States of America. So then you have that. And on the other hand, you have obviously ISIS, which is, this terror cell that seemingly never attacks Israel and only kills Muslims. Weirdly enough, okay? Don't know what that's about. I'm not going to point any fingers here. Has the American forces actually defended ISIS at times? Yes. Has Israel defended ISIS at times in Syria? Yes, they have. But they also fight ISIS all the time. Not Israel. Israel doesn't fight ISIS. They've apologized for killing ISIS soldiers on accident. But the American government will use the Kurdish militias to fight against ISIS in Syria. So then you have that. Okay, but how do you explain the discrepancy in how you always rightfully compartmentalize Hezbollah's horrific slaughters of Syrian children versus their participation in the acts of resistance against Israel, and understandably never care to mention the many crimes before every statement involving them, but you always seem so obsessively to do that with Jelani? You have said that you are not pro-Assad, but I'm not sure you are anti-Assad at this point. I'm anti-Israel unconditionally, which is precisely the reason why I will explain Hezbollah's military actions in Syria and then simultaneously still say that like Hezbollah is a militant group that now has a party in the Lebanese parliament that was created as a defensive posture for the Shia population in Lebanon, but also primarily the only military formation against Israel in Lebanon. So that's the reason why I don't have that same kind of I have more of an interest in compartmentalizing Hezbollah as opposed to HDS or Jelani. But if you might have noticed, I'm not attacking Jelani all that much currently, because despite the fact that Jelani has done everything to be a dog of the West, Israel is still fucking up the bag for them. Part of the reason why Israel is doing this, of course, is because this is against Turkish incursion in Syria. They don't want Turkey to have too much influence in Syria. Assad isn't Shia, by the way. He's Alawi. No, I know. I'm not. I didn't say he's Shia. Also, I'm Sunni. What are we talking about? I have no allegiance to the fucking Shias by religion at all. I don't give a shit. So there are a lot of groups that did horrible shit in Syria that are now in charge, and they're openly stating that at least right now that they are on board with like Israel. They're on board with America. They just want like Syria to be able to develop, and Israel seemingly has different opinions. Israel seemingly does not think that is where this conflict should head. Israel has different ambitions here. In the past 24 hours, Israel's bombed scores of sites across Syria, reportedly including the Ministry of Defense, Army General Command, and the Presidential Palace. Now Israeli cabinet ministers are openly threatening to assassinate Syria's new leader, al-Shara. Ben-Gvir says Israel must eliminate Syria's Shara over violence against the Druze. Since Assad's downfall, Israel hasn't just been relentlessly bombing what's left of Syria's military and strategic infrastructure, it's been steadily seizing territory, using the chaos to advance its long-standing ambitions. Assad's successor, al-Shara, a former al-Qaeda and ISIS commander, rose to power through quiet coordination between Turkish, Gulf, and Western intelligence services. This is correct. Sina Tusi is right on this. He was repackaged from terrorist to politician with promises of economic backing and diplomatic legitimacy. And if you recall, when this happened, I told you I am not pro-Assad by any metric, okay? He was incredibly weak and incredibly cruel. Having said that, however, that people were desperate for change, and they thought that this would bring that change that they wanted. I thought that this would lead to more instability. I thought that the American-backed forces here would probably have to play a role, would probably reinstate the same ethnic tensions in Syria, and the sectarian violence would most likely continue. And if it doesn't continue, they would do their very best to try to further try to further fucking attack Syria. I do find it somewhat interesting that Israel never really did this while Assad was in power. By the way, just pointing that out, kind of interesting that this was not like this level of incursion never took place when Assad was in power. So I wonder what that's about. Perhaps has a lot to do with his weakness as well. And Russia too, certainly. Never to this degree. Never to this degree. Never to this degree. They didn't want to mess with the line of Damascus, or maybe the line of Damascus by way of Russia had communiques with the Israeli state to a certain degree, perhaps. Just saying. Because, like, Russia is also an interesting power player in this region. It's a regional actor, as you guys know, but it's also one that is, like, deeply tied to Israel by way of population. There's a fuck ton of Russians in Israel. Vladimir Putin literally said, what did he say when Israel was striking Iran? He was like, striking back at Israel would be like striking back at Russia or something along those lines, where it's like there is a massive amount of Russians that have Israeli citizenship. Many oligarchs use Israel as a way. Many Russian oligarchs use Israel as a way. We're back. We're fine. We're back. We're fine. Okay, I'm on the internet again. My Ethernet is pooped. But we're back. Where were we? What a frustrating situation. None of this stuff needs to, just today and new setup will fix this, bro. We good? Yeah. What is this? I do believe it's the feds hacking you. This is called psychological terrorism. They know the stream effing is killing you. Yeah, I don't think so, man. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that is the case. I'll be honest with you. I think that the easiest to explain answer is probably the correct one, which is that my ISP sucks. There's probably some server issues on the Twitch side. There's some server issues on the IRL Toolkit side. It's just issues galore. But I'm able to keep pushing through it regardless, because I still want to offer you explanations on what's happening in the world. So the simplest explanation is the most plausible explanation. I forget what I was talking about. Oh, we were talking about Syria. My internet is just booty, bro. Yeah, I'm already on a separate connection at this point. So, I'm already on a separate connection. There could be software issues. There could be hardware issues. There could be ISP issues. There could be issues on the Twitch side server. There could be issues on the Toolkit side server. Because I'm like, there are multiple points of failure in this process. It is I know I'm doing it out of my fucking living room, but this is a professional production, so there's a lot happening. So who knows? Trump is live right now. Okay,
will be put behind bars for a very long time.
Well, we'll see. We'll get to the Trump shit in a second, but we're not going to do that right now.
Millions of families ravaged by this.
I'm not going to do Trump right now. You can bypass ISPs and take a direct ISP in exchange. You were saying Putin won't intervene in Israel and Russian oligarchs do something in Israel. Yeah, as I was saying, Russian oligarchs use Israel as a way to park their assets and as a way to, like, enter the global marketplace and be able to travel freely with their Israeli passports. Russian is the third most popular language in Israel after English and Hebrew. It is, and that's not a mistake. Yeah, here's Putin quote on Israel being considered a Russian-speaking country, which I won't be able to go to because the Times of Israel won't let me enter their website for some reason. I don't know if I've been, like, IP banned from Times of Israel or not. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but you're the only top streamer I've ever seen with this many internet issues. Yeah, just wait, right on cue. I'm sure my my alerts box will break and you'll see the gray bars again too. But yeah, I literally cannot go on timesofisrael.com. I don't know what it is. Trump might be about to announce the Gaza ceasefire. I doubt it. But in any case, yeah, here's the same quote from TASS. Putin points to Israel's huge Russian-speaking demographic. Okay. The Russian leader also noted that Russia has traditionally friendly allied relationships with the Arab and Islamic world. Israel is almost a Russian-speaking country, and Moscow takes this into account, Russian President Vladimir Putin said at the plenary session at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Kaya's groomer appointment is here as well. But anyway, let's continue.
Israelis decided to launch a series of airstrikes today against the Syrian capital of Damascus, targeting not only military headquarters in the capital, but also a position within the presidential compound, right next to the presidential palace. Now, we do know that the U.S. Special Envoy to Syria, Tom Barak, has issued a statement condemning the violence against civilians in southern Syria and urging de-escalation. He praised the Syrian government for putting out a similar statement condemning the violence, but indicated their actions and words needed to match. The key here is that the Israelis want the Syrian government to ensure that the situation de-escalates and that the Druze population is protected. At this point, based on the videos that have circulated online over the past 48 hours, the Druze population is not being protected, and that is the reason that you saw these Israeli strikes earlier today. But again, the latest information that we have, the Israeli Air Force has conducted a series of airstrikes against positions in the Syrian capital of Damascus, targeting government-linked positions there.
All right,
Dana.
Trey Yingst, thank you for that breaking news development. We'll keep everyone posted.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch.
Yeah, it's spa day for Kaya right now. All right, Israel carries out fresh strikes on Syrian capital. State media reports.
The Syrian capital is being hit, and state TV says Israel is responsible. It is 4 p.m. in Damascus. It is 5 p.m. here in Abu Dhabi's CNN Middle East programming headquarters. I'm Becky Anderson. You're watching Connect the World. Let's get straight to the very latest inside Syria. And the capital, Damascus, being hit by a series of airstrikes. State media blaming Israel, and the Israeli defense minister shared video of the attack saying, quote, "The painful blows have begun." Well, earlier today, Israel said it has struck the entrance to the headquarters of the Syrian armed forces in the capital. Now, this is what we know.
Why did they do this? Because they're bored, bro. Okay? Do you understand? Because they're fucking bored. That's why they did it. What reason do they need? Because, I mean, they want more control over Syria. They want more control over Syrian territory. And they are using the Druze population, or at least one sect of the Druze population, for instability in the region. Hassan, you have just not been fully transparent and evaded saying if you're explicitly anti-Assad. If you're not anti-Assad, it's fine as long as you explain your position on why you aren't. Do you think he ought to have remained in power to be a net positive considering his supply lines despite his cruelty? I'm a Stalinist, so I would understand the necessity of state violence and war, but Assad doesn't fill the criteria. He was just a criminal. No, dog. I have explicitly stated that. Why the fuck do you keep bringing this up? Shut the fuck up, dude. Shut the fuck up. God damn. Dwindling fucking loser is right. Jesus, Lord mercy. He's like, I'm a Stalinist. And it feels like you're pro-Assad. God damn. One of the fucking worst aspects of Twitch streaming is like you constantly have to be in contact with the most maladjusted fucking losers that are just like presenting themselves as earnest people with real questions, you know? Shut the fuck up. And it's literally the same principle behind like Zoran having to constantly fucking answer on whether he wants to kill every Jewish person or not. It's like he's never fucking said anything even remotely anti-Semitic. God damn. And he has answered it. And it's like at the 500th time that you have to answer it, you're going to like, you know, you're going to inevitably say something that they can just like fucking clip out of context and be like, see?
On Tuesday, Syrian government forces were sent to the Druze stronghold of Suwaida in the south of...
Yeah, it's like how I always have to preface invasion of Ukraine with unjustifiable. I know. And it doesn't matter. These people still are so dense that they think I'm like pro-Russia invading Ukraine. Holy fuck.
Of Syria, after days of sectarian violence there between the Druze and Bedouin tribes. In response, Israel, which has vowed to protect the Druze community, began launching strikes on the Syrian forces advancing towards Suwaida. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is in Jerusalem. Salma Abdelaziz joins us live from London. Jeremy, let me start with you. What do we know about what is happening right now in Damascus? We do have live pictures of the capital that we can bring up as you are speaking.
Yeah, well, as we have seen, the Israeli military has been carrying out airstrikes in the Syrian capital of Damascus. We know of at least one strike at the entrance to Syria's military headquarters there. 2 civilians were injured as a result of that strike, according to Syrian state TV. We have also seen several other strikes in Damascus, some of which we are still working to confirm the exact location of them. But there have been reports of strikes near the defense ministry as well as near the presidential palace. But what we are watching here on the Israeli side of the border is really quite stunning, Becky, and that is that we are seeing Druze individuals in.
Yeah, also, this is the other reason. Reminder, Israel sees any intra-Syrian reconciliation and unity agreements between the government and Druze or Kurds as a severe blow to Israel. Israel wants Syria to be intractably divided, failed state. Israel is only weaponizing the issue of Syrian minorities to achieve this aim. Also, it's you know, the timing of it is because there's Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition is like dwindling. And on top of that, they keep pushing back his fucking trial. So like all of that unites under this banner where Israel will consistently bomb another fucking country to be like, well, we're in war. You can't put me. You can't. I'm a wartime president. You can't do a trial for me. How dare you? Source, the articles from last March when the Syrian government signed an agreement with Druze leaders in As-Suwaida. Israel immediately declared this a severe blow to Israel and did everything possible to blow up the deal and undermine Syrian unity. There's also another concern here because like Syria is basically piecemeal, partially controlled by Israeli interests, partially controlled by Turkish interests, and of course, both of those are under the banner of American interests, and therefore, this is two different factions that want more control over Syria. Israel saying like, no, it's our country, and Turkey saying, no, it's our country. We get to control it. It's America's two different attack dogs in the region having a little bit of a conflict over Syrian territory, which is no longer a sovereign state. Okay. And yeah, that's what's going on. Bro, Hassan, the problem is acting like one evil left another came, but that's just not the case. Assad is infinitely worse than Jelani. The division and sectarianism that will come to Syria as a result of Jelani is much better issue to have the unjustified murder of hundreds of thousands over decades. That's why the whole country was happy when Jelani won, except the Alawites, to be honest. This is precisely why I said we wait. We sit and we wait, but I'm not holding out hope. Okay? Because you're describing an American puppet who is still getting fucking brutalized by America's other vassal states in the region, as you are seeing right now. Okay? That's it. That person is not a Fed. He's just a Sunni Muslim in the region, maybe a Sunni Syrian refugee. Okay? They want to turn Syria into Libya. That's what they want to do. Don't compare us with Israel. What the fuck is wrong with you? What do you mean? Us as in like the United States of America with Israel? We are Israel. Israel is us. Israel is an extension of American interest in the region. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you crazy? Oh, you mean Turkey? Oh my God, the Turkish cope is so fucking strong in the chat sometimes. Turkey is different, bro. It's different. I swear, bro. Really? It's different? We got American nukes in Incirlik. What are you talking about? We're the fucking a NATO country. Get the fuck out of here. We're not as like slammed in the ass cheeks of America as Israel is. You know, Erdogan does stray away from American interests, at least for a short period of time, but that offers it protective cover to make side deals with like Russia and China from time to time. But those side deals only offer comfort to Russia. And then look what Erdogan did in Syria.
Israel, either Israeli Druze or Syrian Druze who live in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, attempting to cross into Syria to try and help their fellow Druze brothers in Syria who have been under attack in the city of Suwaida. And we are seeing hundreds of these Druze individuals crossing the Israeli border fence into the Israeli-controlled buffer zone inside of Syria, trying to make their way to presumably that city of Suwaida. It has been an extraordinary scene to witness these hundreds of people who have broken across this guarded border fence. We have seen the Israeli military out deploying tear gas to try and get these individuals, many of whom are Israeli citizens, back onto the other side of the border. The Israeli Prime Minister has addressed the matter directly, saying that the situation in Suwaida, that southern city with a very heavy Druze population, calling that situation very serious, but saying that he has one request for the Druze population in Israel, and that is, quote, do not cross the border. He maintained that the Israeli military is carrying out actions, and indeed we have heard from the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, who said that
Israeli Druze member of Knesset crossed the fence as well. He claims he went inside to convince the others to go back. At least 1,000 Druze from Israel and the occupied Golan have crossed the fence with the stated intention of joining the fight against Suwaida. Some of them are armed. Incredible. Is this a rare situation where the Druze actually like Israel? Some are being used. Okay. They're all being used. Every single person here that is like Minister of Knesset Afif Abed from Likud, who crossed the border into Syria in a conversation with Khan News. We entered without security and our own initiative to rescue the Israeli Druze and protect their lives. Incredible. The Druze, some of the Druze factions here are basically like the Kurdish factions that America uses from time to time. They don't ultimately give a shit about the Druze population. They're just using the Druze population to be like, see, we are the protectors of the Druze population here. That's it. The Druze population is a ethnic minority that is in occupied Israeli territory and also in Syria as well. Is a religious. It's like a religious minority, and they serve. Some of them serve in the IDF too. America always uses Kurds and arm them just to drop them later on. Same story every time. Yeah. And it's like they're still second-class citizens because they're not Jewish, but it doesn't matter. Israeli Druze who are active Israeli occupying force are turncoats. Kamal Jumblat literally fought for the Palestinian cause and died. Important to note that they want to support the Israeli-backed drug gangs of the Druze warlord Hikamet al-Hijri, who, mind you, has barely any public support. They want to help their Druze brothers. Many literally have families there. They're not crossing for any warlord. At least 1,000 Druze from Israel and the occupied Golan have crossed the fence with the stated intention of joining the fight against Suwaida. Some of them are armed. What does Israel gain from quote-unquote protecting the Druze? They make it seem as though they have real ambitions, like a moral goal in further destabilizing Syria. But yeah, remember, what a coincidence. Israel starts another unprovoked assault on the day of Netanyahu's trial and a day before his government was about to collapse because his ultra-Orthodox partners were ready to leave the fucking ruling coalition. Last month it was Iran, now Syria, all thanks to free U.S. military supplies. Hell yeah. Fantastic.
Will intensify its attacks on government forces if they do not withdraw from Suwaida. And indeed, in addition to the strikes that we've seen in the Syrian capital of Damascus, there have also been Israeli strikes in and near Suwaida, including strikes on tanks and other heavy equipment, trucks carrying machine guns, according to the Israeli military, that they say were headed toward that city of Suwaida. Becky?
I'm going to come back to you. Stand by. I just want to get Selma up at this point. You've done a lot of reporting and producing from Syria. What do we understand to be happening in the south, in Suwaida, at present on the ground? We are seeing strikes, and we understand and we are reporting on heavy fighting there. Just explain what we understand to be going on.
Yes, so absolutely the flashpoint of Suwaida, which is a stronghold for this Druze community. They are a minority group, but they are a majority in this city. And that is where these clashes broke out over the weekend between Bedouin tribes and this Druze community. Now, we have images to show you of what that outbreak of violence looks like on the ground. Gunfire on the streets, armored vehicles, terrified families, as you can imagine. And with that outbreak of violence over the weekend, dozens of people were killed. That's what prompted the Syrian government.
Which citizenship have the Druze? The Druze in Israel have Israeli citizenship, and the Druze in Syria have Syrian citizenship. I'm Lebanese Druze, and we don't think of Israeli Druze as real Druze. We've been targeted in Israel in the Lebanese civil war by Syrian Shia Muslims native to Lebanon and the Phalanges Christians during that time. Nothing against those religious sects other than the Phalanges. That's just how things went down. My parents lived through those times and told us about it. And then, yeah, the Druze in Lebanon are Lebanese. And that's whatever nation that they are a part of, that's their nationality. It's interesting, though, because the Golani Druze have rejected the Israeli citizenship, or at least a big chunk of the Druze, Syrian Druze population that's living in Golan Heights, that is occupied Israeli territory that Donald Trump in his first term officially recognized the annexation of, indirect a violation of international law. The Druze there, some of which actually died in the Hezbollah strikes, if you remember, because Israel loves using them as like a talking point. The Druze there are anti-Israel, but there are plenty of Druze that live in Israel proper that are super pro-Israel and fight in the Israeli occupying forces. And despite their second-class citizenship status, they still ride for Israel pretty fucking hard. I don't know the exact the exact background of the Israeli Druze that like crossed the border here into occupied Syrian, into the Syrian territory that's currently occupied by Israel. But it's a weird set of circumstances because like there's still nascent factions within the Syrian state that are Salafist brigades and they're still in operation, and they do get riled up and engage in sectarian violence against different factions. Like the Alawites got slaughtered pretty aggressively in the interim period when HTS was trying to put together some kind of coalition to build like whatever the skeleton would look like for a Syrian state. And then now is the Druze population, because there's many different ethnic and religious minorities that live in Syria, just like in Lebanon. This is all the grand design of British and French colonial occupation. It is deliberate. The way that these countries, the way that these country lines, national territories have been drawn is deliberately incredibly diverse. So they use, but I guess the American government is mad, kind of. I don't know how really mad they are, but.
On Syria,
yes.
What is it that the U.S. is hoping to see in the next few hours?
Well,
the U.S. is calling on the Syrian government to, in fact, withdraw their military from southern Syria in order to enable all sides to de-escalate and find a path forward. The State Department spokesperson refused to say whether the U.S. has asked Israel to halt the strikes.
Certainly an end to the conflict, an end to...
Bro, like, being in the vicinity of Israel is like being stuck in a room with like a fucking serial rapist with a gun. You have nothing. The serial rapist has a gun. They're going to do whatever the fuck it wants to. Every single person in the region. And there's nothing you can do. And if you ever like strike back, if you ever say that you don't want this, then America comes in, okay, and says, no. They get to do whatever the fuck they want to you. Shut the fuck up. Stand down. It is crazy. It's crazy. Israel's like, oh, we have a greater ambition for our greater Israeli project, and some of that is Syrian territory. And then they just like blow up Damascus. And then America turns around and says, hey, they're doing the right thing by blowing up Damascus. You should shut the fuck up.
The nature of the violence that is happening, an Israeli withdrawal, a Syrian government withdrawal from the area as well.
And has the U.S. asked Israel to halt strikes on Syria?
I cannot speak to specific conversations or the exchanges diplomatically. But I can say that, let me see, there's a few things that might give us a sense here of what's happening. We are calling on the Syrian government to, in fact, withdraw their military in order to enable all sides to de-escalate and find a path forward. And I think that that's obviously the goal because of the nature of what's happened and the secretary's phrasing that this was a misunderstanding. He's optimistic that this can be achieved.
Sina, let's do more of the... Assad's successor al-Sharaa, former al-Qaeda and ISIS commander, rose to power through quiet coordination between Turkish Gulf and Western intelligence services. This is true. He was repackaged from terrorist to politician with promises of economic backing and diplomatic legitimacy. He was literally presented as like a part of the Gulf, the Abraham Accords. He was like supposed to be the new face of the Abraham Accords. This is real. They literally had posters with Benjamin Netanyahu's face alongside all the fucking Gulf leaders and even Jolani in those posters. They were like, this is our big, beautiful new umbrella of alliance that will stabilize the region. Over the past 6 months, al-Sharaa and his forces have struggled to govern and coexist with Syria's multi-ethnic and multi-religious society. Their record includes brutal attacks on Alawites, Christians, and Druze, expulsions of religious minorities, suppression of dissenting Sunnis. Now, the problem here is, part of that is because these guys are not like a legitimate government, and they haven't been able to put together a legitimate government, and that I think their new design for what Syrian democracy in air quotes was going to look like was basically just like a fake, not like a real election. And another part of the problem here is that because of their lack of legitimacy, but backing from the American state and other regional actors, specifically Turkey, it doesn't matter that they don't have like a real. It doesn't matter that they don't have like real popular support and popular mobilization. The only thing that people were on board with was no more Assad, right? But the Syrian population understandably want to have elections. And regardless of Assad's illegitimate reign over Syria and its fake elections, okay, the reality of the matter is they still have ballots. Like Syria still has a functioning electoral system. They could use it, but these guys don't want to use it, okay? HDS was supposed to be like a temporary arrangement, and then it was going to turn into a real robust Syrian democracy. Of course, that'll never happen, obviously, because a real robust Syrian democracy could spell instability for for Israel and also Turkey's ambitions in the country. Okay? Yet efforts to legitimize al-Sharaa pressed on, culminating in his meeting with Trump in Riyadh. The prospect of sanctions relief gave Syrians a sliver of hope, but that hope is vanishing as Israel's relentless bombing is gutting the state he hoped to rule. The key question now is what Turkey and Qatar will do. Erdogan once spoke of praying in the Umayyad Mosque, and the Qatari emir stood with al-Sharaa on Mount Qasyan in January. But with al-Sharaa under siege, will they do anything to save him? Because remember, these guys like al-Sharaa, Jolani, Zelensky, whatever you want to call him, Jolensky, whatever you want to fucking call him, is Turkey's guy. Like Turkey is, very quickly seized on the opportunity. Turkey has a shit ton of Sunni Syrians inside of its borders, and there is already like internal pressure from the Turkish public to send back the Syrians to Syria. Many of the Syrians also want to go back to Syria, understandably. So, because they want a stable Syria that they can return to, and so that seemingly is not in the cards for Israel. After Assad's fall, Turkey's foreign minister called it a lesson for Iran. Now al-Sharaa, backed by Ankara, may not last a year, while Assad, with Iranian and Russian support, brutally held on for 14 years after the uprising. Okay, I believe that this is Hakan Fidan, Turkey's foreign minister. I believe that Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Jordan can come together and take very serious steps to solve critical problems in the region. We've started to do so with a meeting in Aqaba. The important thing here is that the states are sincere. The strategic takeaways now, one surely weighing in on the minds of many regional leaders and longtime U.S. allies, is this: the consequences of trusting Israel in the U.S. can be disastrous. Syria is fast becoming a cautionary tale in that regard. You have to remember, like, they want... Americans in Israel don't care about stability, safety, and security for the civilian populations in any of these countries. As a matter of fact, it goes against their ambition in the region. Turkey, to a certain degree, at least I would say, Turkey, to a certain degree, cares about stability as far as they can manipulate the existing Syrian leadership, where they would rather have their guy in charge. Whereas with Israel, they don't give a shit because they're not going to take any of the fucking refugees. At least Turkey, by way of its national security concerns in the northern Syrian corridor, and by way of like a refugee crisis that they take ownership over, have a real interest in making sure that at least Syria is like somewhat stable. Israel doesn't have that interest at all. Israel just wants to fuck up the bag. Whether they have a puppet state, which they kind of have with Jolani already, by way of America, because Jolani is America's guy and Turkey's guy, or they have complete destabilization, doesn't matter. They will blow shit up and they will take over more territory. And ultimately that plays a role in their ambitions. I get it. There's a little F. Just 3 days ago, Syria signs an $800 million Tartus port deal with UAE firm DP World for a 30-year contract, the same governmental company that's waging genocide in Sudan, to protect their assets in the Sudan port. If Turkey truly sees al-Sharaa's government as worth defending, the question is whether Erdogan will respond in any meaningful way. Will he cut trade ties or halt energy shipments to Israel? So far, Ankara's rhetoric hasn't matched his actions. He's not going to do that. The best Erdogan could do in this process is basically go back to America and beg them to rein Israel in. Because Erdogan's goal here, regardless of his own personal motivations, regardless of his own personal response to like internal conflict in Turkey with respect to Syrian refugees going back to Syria, and his interest in having control over a now stable Syria that is aligned directly with Ankara, he can't do shit about it because he's America's lapdog. Okay? There's nothing he can do about it. Israel's goals in Syria are no mystery. Establish a corridor to Iraqi Kurdistan border, fragment the country through its allies among Druze and Kurds, inch closer to the old vision of a greater Israel in a new Middle East, arguably more improvisation than strategy. Every outlet is framing this as Israel's trying to prevent a genocide of the Druze. It's insane. Of course they're doing that because that's what Israel's claim is, and that's precisely the reason why every American outlet is going to cover it as such. Okay? The other thing that is a problem here with the instability and the lack of legitimate popular support for Jelani is that he has no control over whatever kind of factional war that exists, whatever kind of paramilitary groups that still are in operation inside of Syrian borders. When you don't have a stable nation state with real functioning democracy and no fucking military because Israel blew up all of your anti-air defense systems and all of your fucking Air Force, which they did shortly after HTS took power, you don't have a real functioning state. And when you don't have a real functioning state, you have no control over the paramilitary factions that might come back into action and start slaughtering Alawites or start slaughtering fucking Druze populations. And then Israel can claim that they're protecting the Druze and by bombing Damascus.
Government to send forces to southern Syria. It says, the Syrian government says, in an attempt to quell the unrest, to calm what you're hearing and you're seeing there on your screen. But Israel's response, Israel's intervention in
labeling Ahmed al-Harara as an American asset is baseless conspiracy theory that distracts from the real sacrifices made by activists on the ground. What? Stop it. You're right, man. He is a reformist. My mistake, big dog. The former Al-Qaeda, the former Al-Qaeda leader is actually, he's not an American asset. He's not. He's reformed. He's real. Al-Sharaa has basically only been successful in consolidating power in central Syria, in and around Damascus, homes in the big central cities. In the periphery, they haven't made much headway because of local militias controlling territory. Yes, and you can't bring all of these different factions together in the table, especially if you were warring with them and you don't even have the military power to be able to do so. And some of those factions are geared up by, or some of those factions were basically used as like stay behind networks by the American state, and will actively will decide to do things on their own now. Okay, they got the logistics, they got the support, they got the backing, they got the equipment, and now they got their own ambitions. So good luck. This is why I said no matter who comes into charge in Syria, Syria is still very much fucked. This does not mean that Assad was good or like a fucking hero to the Palestinian cause. I think Assad's cruelty and even his reliance on him turning basically Syria into a logistical hub between Iran and Lebanon was also, all of those factors, and even him like relying on Russian support, was all born out of his weakness. Just like his cruelty was born out of his weakness. He was weak and maybe was even involved with Israeli affairs as well. So the shred of stability that incredibly cruel regime presented, as opposed to the instability of this current administration, is just jumping out of a vat of shit into a toxic chemical pit, pretty much. It's just like there's no salvation here.
What is a domestic affair has, of course, poured fuel on this fire. The Syrian government's push to try to assuage the clashes in that area is part of a wider effort, Becky, of course, to try to end second.
There's also this as well. No shot the fighters for HTS, Syrian military, are okay with being Israel's dog and getting bombed constantly. Jelani will be overthrown just like Assad. There's also that as well. Because, like, the reality of the matter is, the more Israel gets to do some fuck shit, okay, the less stable Jelani's already unstable coalition is, his limited coalition falls apart when people go, dude, what the fuck? You were supposed to put a suit and tie on and take away our sanctions so we could like rebuild the country and then maybe sometime in the future have an attempt towards democracy. Okay? Like, there's a lot of there was a lot of copium from a lot of people, even in my chat, even in my community. Understandable copium. Some hopium from people that thought like, oh no, you don't understand. Like, the reason why Jelani has to say he's like pro-Israel is because he doesn't want to be bombed. It's like, okay, well, Israel hasn't stopped bombing Syria, so what the fuck does that mean? Like, it's understandable that people in these dire situations that have seen like that have been displaced, that have seen their family members get slaughtered or family members get like tortured in a fucking prison, would think like, okay, this time it'll be different. I hope maybe good things are possible. That's why I said we can only wait to see what happens. But all of this wheeling and dealing from al-Shara or Jelani, whatever you want to call him, has not led to Israel standing down and allowing them to like try to even form a fucking government, because that is not in the cards. Israel doesn't want that. Israel likes it being incredibly fucking unstable.
Military violence in the country, that looks very much like a situation that the country does not have a grasp on, and it makes it ever more difficult for government forces to reestablish control in an area when Israeli forces say they have no right to be there. Israel has declared a unilateral demilitarized zone in this part of Syria, something the Syrian government says it does not agree to. It is calling on Israel to stop. It is accusing Israel of violating its sovereignty. So you have a tinderbox here, Becky, with foreign intervention from Israel very much exacerbating that situation on the ground. And you heard from my colleague Jeremy as well, more individuals as well potentially going into Syria and adding to that chaos.
Yeah, and I want to be absolutely clear, Jeremy, I'm going to bring you back in, that we are getting reports of barbaric.
Real strong guy. A big bounty on you the other day. Big bounty. No longer do I have a bounty on you. Handsome guy, big beard. He's like Zelensky, but also tall and handsome. He's like my Zelensky. The Syrian government has two modes that it can never deviate from: massacring minorities and capitulating to Israel. This is a constant cycle that can only lead towards the collapse of the state.
Attacks on the civilian population in Suwaida, and we will get more reporting on that as we move through the next couple of hours. Let's just be quite clear about this. Why are the Israelis...
Dude, look, the Syrian army has begun their withdrawal from Suwaida governorate of southern Syria tonight as a part of the agreement brokered by the United States between Druze, Israel, and Syria. Under the agreement, it appears that security forces under the Syrian Interior Ministry will remain in Suwaida, but not the Syrian army. They're pulling back the Syrian army. Once again, the HDS forces or the current Syrian military under the leadership of Jelani is once again capitulating to Israel, which, as we know, Israel's not going to stop. Israel has never stopped until it is forced to.
Israelis getting involved, and why have they vowed to protect the Druze community?
Well, the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar kind of laid it out this morning, saying that there are two primary reasons for Israel intervening in Syria. The first of which, he said, is that Israel is trying to protect itself, that it does not want to allow certain armed elements along its border in that southern part of Syria. So there is a national security interest, they say. The second element, though, which seems to be the most salient one at this moment, is that they say that they have an interest in protecting.
Excuse me, Israel has a right to defend itself by taking over more territory in a sovereign state, Syria. Excuse me. Hello? What do you mean? What, did you think that anything different was going to take place? This is, in my opinion, remember when I told you that it's Israel that's holding the wheel now? Like, Israel is playing a much more important role in the grand design for American imperialism in the region. This is a byproduct of that, because I suspect in the past, if they wanted to ensure stability, like actual stability in Syria in a way that benefits both Israel in the long run and also America's interest in the long run, they would just pack this up and they would tell Israel to stand the fuck down. Okay. They would tell Israel to stand down, let Syria become this new like HTS backed government, and let Turkey have a lot more control over what happens in Syrian affairs, because ultimately Turkey is also America's as actor here. But it doesn't work like that any longer. Now Israel gets to drive the car, and this is the outcome. Israel could end the war in Gaza, sit and talk with Syria and Saudi Arabia, and even manage its issues with Turkey through direct channels it already has. But Netanyahu chooses to distract his public from the corruption trial by keeping Israel in perpetual war. I mean, it's not just that. It's not just that. It's also because like this is a direct strike against like Turkish involvement in the region as well. Yeah, Ragıp Soylu, no, I mean, all disrespect, I guess, is a little bit of a Erdogan lackey. Let's be real.
The minority Druze community in Syria, citing strong bonds that Israel has with the Druze community. And what's important to also understand is that the Druze community is not a monolith. First of all, the Druze are a religion. They live in Syria, they live in Israel, they live in Lebanon as well. And there are very much differences, not only between the Syrian Druze and the Israeli Druze, the Lebanese Druze, but also within the Syrian Druze community itself. There are several prominent clerics within the Syrian Druze community, one of whom has very openly allied himself with Israel and has had communication with the spiritual leader of the Druze here in Israel. And there has been a constant back and forth there, including with that cleric requesting support and assistance from the Israelis. The Israeli Druze community here, as well as the Syrian Druze who live in the Golan Heights, some of whom have Israeli citizenship, but most of whom do not. They have, of course, a very, very strong affinity with the Syrian Druze community in Syria proper, and have felt extraordinarily concerned over the course of the last several months as they have witnessed attacks being carried out on that Druze community, especially in this city of Sueda. We have seen Israeli Druze members of the military protesting at the border, saying that they want to go there and fight to defend their Syrian Druze brothers. The Israeli government, of course, carrying out these strikes, but also urging those Druze individuals in Israel not to cross the border, not to take matters into their own hands. But given some of the images that have been circulating here in Israeli media of some of the attacks that have been carried out on the Druze in Sueda, as you can see, many individuals are feeling compelled to act on their own. And that is why we are seeing these scenes now of hundreds of people crossing into this buffer zone in Syria, which Israel controls, and trying ultimately to get all the way into Syria and to that city of Sueda.
Here's some good news. With the revenue in the negatives and a promised 15 million shekel care package that never arrived, the port of Eilat is officially shutting its doors and turning its keys starting next week due to the effects of Yemen's naval blockade. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni terrorist organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. The official reason for the closure announcement is a seizure imposed by the Eilat municipality on the port's accounts, which have accumulated property tax debts totaling several 100,000 shekels. This is after its revenues, which stood at hundreds of millions of shekels a year, have dropped to almost zero since the Houthi rebels began attacking global shipping, especially that en route to Israel shortly after October 7, 2023. Excuse me when I say I stand 10 toes down in this regard. Economic pressure is clearly the most pacifist option here. Okay? It's true. It's real. Perhaps that is the reason why so many people get so mad when I talk about the Houthis and the Ansar Allah administration creating an environment where there is economic pressure being placed upon the Israeli society broadly. It has to happen. This is what BDS is. This is what boycott, divestment, and sanctions are. This is the most peaceful solution to Israel's unlimited violence, and yet many people don't want to take that option. Here is Bonzer Berry. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. This is from Walla. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. We already covered that. This is after its revenues, which stood at hundreds, covered that as well, Worth noting that Rashrash Eliot has been effectively closed for 19 months now because not Eliot, sorry, has been effectively closed for 19 months now because of Yemen's operations against Israel. 80% of his revenues were lost in 2024. Okay. Yet you are using Windows and Microsoft product. Microsoft is a priority BDS target. No, it's not. Xbox gaming, like Microsoft gaming division is. Anyway, shut the fuck up. Don't come to me with this shit. Not even as a joke. All right. Because there's so much misinformation on this stuff, and I think it's by design. A lot of people do this specifically to be like, dude, what are you going to do about that? I can't stand the Houthis, but they're doing the right thing here. Everyone has the responsibility to do what they can to stop this, and they're using their strategic position to do right here. Critical support on this specifically. Yeah, even Cloud District Enjoyer, who is a bit of a fucking lib when it comes to this kind of stuff, who initially used to yell at me all the time because I kept saying over and over again that what they're doing is the correct thing here, has now come on board. There it is. This is what you do when you actually recognize as a genocide, regardless of your own personal opinions on the matter. I'm not a lib and I didn't do that. Yes, you did. We can literally see your old statements in the chat, but it's okay because you at least, you do recognize that it's a genocide. Everyone that says is a genocide, but what the Houthis are doing is wrong, does not actually recognize as a fucking genocide. Because if they did, they would be like, yeah, of course, critical support to the Houthis for blockading the Red Sea. Of course. What do you mean? What the fuck are people supposed to do? Anyway, in all honesty, you should ditch as much closed source software as you can. Okay, dude. Yeah, I can't even fucking run a normal stream with the existing software that I have, and you want me to learn Linux. Get out of here. Eilat isn't just Israel's gateway to the east, it's also a strategic port to the Israeli Navy. The port crew and equipment help dock and service naval ships, including the ones that are part of the multi-layer missile defense in the south. Anyway, where was I? Consider the new PC an opportunity to switch to Firefox and get back with the ads and shit? No. Oh, here, this is footage, by the way. Can't wait for some Israeli to send me 7 pages worth of text explaining how this was justified and not a war crime due to minor technicalities in the Geneva Convention because undefined border. Even you got like pro-Ukraine accounts shitting on Israel now. So yeah, great situation overall. What is this? HD Hussein Doro. Oh, this guy is the guy who was sanctioned by the EU and is like now officially stateless, which is crazy. Thread, what's happening in Syria and how it's part of West's redesign for the entire Middle East? A new Syrian civil war is breaking out. This time it's not fueled by proxy war between U.S. and Russia. The U.S. is now backing all sides. Syria's self-appointed transitional government led by Jalani/al-Shara, backed by the United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, under the pretext of protecting the Druze and Qatar. Under the pretext of protecting the Druze, Israel always moves with American approval. So America is de facto also on this side. Could longtime U.S. allies, the Kurds, enter the fray? Until now, the U.S. has allowed al-Shara's sectarian pogroms against the Alawites and Christians, even rewarding him by lifting sanctions and removing his terrorism designation. Alman Turkevet, he's a German Turk who is now, I think, like, he's in like this unique, impossible situation where like he's completely sanctioned by the EU. Now that Russia is out of Syria, minorities are desperately looking for a new powerful ally to help them. Today, it's the Druze under siege by al-Shara's thugs, and they have nowhere to turn but towards Israel. Israel, in turn, seeks further settler colonialist expansionism along its Syria border. I don't know if it's like directionally violence that the Druze are subjected to by al-Shara or Jalani's like brigades themselves, or that Jalani simply does not have any control over a lot of these paramilitaries because he's just like effectively a puppet for Western interests and has no real popular support. Like some people who are maybe a little pro-Assad will make it seem as though he's like, make it seem as though this is like deliberate and that he is doing the massacres himself. It's, you know, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he's like, because I can't see any reason for him to deliberately engage in this kind of ethnic cleansing of the Druze population or creating any sort of sectarian fighting in the region, because you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, enlighten me. Maybe you have more ideas. Here, Israel is right. No. Israel's never right. Israel is always wrong. Anyway, but an overt Israeli presence across Syria isn't feasible. And while al-Sharaa was the easiest way to end Assad plus Russia plus the resistance axis presence, he is full of limitations for the U.S. Powerful elements within al-Sharaa's ranks are unpredictable and hostile to the West. Al-Sharaa's regime also lacks popular support across Syria, while neighboring countries like Lebanon and Iraq are wary. This is where the Kurds come in. The Kurds are the biggest armed non-state army in the region, spread across 4 countries where the U.S. has vital interests, Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. They have more than 10 years of nonstop war experience, including fighting side by side with U.S. forces. But most importantly, for the U.S., the Kurds are pro-Western, and while sometimes critical, crucially, they are not hostile to Israel. In the wake of Assad's overthrow, analysts talked of a David corridor linking Israeli-controlled Golan Heights to Kurdish territory in Syria's north. Today, and this is something that Turkey does not want, okay? This is something that Turkey does not want. Turkey wants to control all of the Kurdish militias in the region, okay? And does not want them to be under any sort of American control. And as a NATO ally, if the interest was like permanent stability, they would probably allow Turkey to do that. And there was some leeway in this direction as the PKK disbanded and disarmed. And that was a gift from America to Turkey, in my opinion, a gift that they gave to Turkey specifically so that Erdogan could like secure a big victory after all that he did for Syria, in terms of overthrowing the Assad regime. And yet Israel has different motivations, it seems. And I think that's what's going on here, which is that like Israel wants to have the Kurdish militias on their side. Considering that the Turks in the past, like the Turkish militias, Turkish military in the past, has literally fought America because of the Kurdish emancipatory movement broadly and their militia movements in the region broadly, I suspect that they're not going to sit idly by and quietly and allow Israel to control Kurdish militias and use them in whatever way they see fit, especially when this connective land bridge would basically be in the border region of southern Turkey, the northern Syrian corridor. Today, Muslim Abdi, the leader of the Kurdish-led SDF, said the Druze have asked his forces to enable safe passage for civilians. Such a passage would likely follow the same route as the proposed David corridor. So the northern Syrian corridor that Turkey has literally fucking bombed into oblivion and have de facto control over, Israel wants to overtake, okay? One possible scenario is that the U.S. welcomed the sectarian pogroms by al-Sharaa's force against minorities like the Alawites controlled chaos. Now both Alawites and the Druze, who were previously ambivalent at best towards the Kurds, can call on them for protection. In this way, the U.S. is engineering the Kurds to become increasingly influential in the new state apparatus so that apparatus can be more stable and pro-Western. In turn, this would enable a stable corridor connecting Syria to Kurdish territories in Iraq and Iran, thereby positioning the U.S. squarely at Iran's door, the final destination where it seeks regime change to secure total regional hegemony. Except that corridor also presents a threat for Turkey, okay? Because Turkey doesn't fuck with Iran. Turkey hates Iran. Let's be real. Ironically enough, what Israel is trying to do is basically a reverse Iran situation where Iran had a logistical corridor in Syria that connected Iran to Lebanon so they could arm Hezbollah. Israel wants to do the reversal and use the Kurdish militias in an effort to connect all of the existing Kurdish militias as a vehicle to further cause instability in Iran. Because remember, while the shit was popping off in Iran, I talked about how while America was striking Iran and things were popping off in Iran, the one group to look out for, as I always said, was the Kurdish movement, the Kurdish nationalist forces in Iran. Dude, what are you talking about? Did you do your own research? What? Yes. What are you? Why do people come in here and they go, dude, I don't understand what you're saying. You're actually wrong. And then they never actually fucking end up telling me what the problem is. W, rage bait completed. You need to finish One Piece. Okay, take a day off. The reason why it's frustrating for me is because, like, I might get something wrong. I might actually misspeak, for example, and I don't want to do that. So if there's like someone who is coming to the table with different information, I welcome that. So So whenever someone comes in and is like, you're actually wrong on this, I'm like, okay, explain why. And it's frustrating. But they just go, you're wrong. And then they fucking don't say anything else. They just say, you're wrong. And then they move on. And it's very frustrating. Finally, in this scenario, the unprecedented decision by the PKK to lay down their arms against Turkey serves an important purpose. The U.S. needs to calm on the Turkish-Kurdish front so that the Kurdish forces can be redirected towards Iran. Quiet about. Now unleashed won't be easy to put back in their box. History shows that the West plans are rarely well laid and often backfire in all sorts of bloody and unexpected ways. Can you explain why Turkey hates Iran so much? What do you mean? That is where Turkey is the continuation of the Ottoman Empire. Iran has its own regional interests. Turkey has its own regional interests. They are directly at odds with one another. There's a little bit of that Sunni-Shia divide there as well for some who care about that sort of thing. Is this true? Once you realize that Kash Patel's girlfriend is a 26-year-old Israeli intelligence operative and that the entire relationship is likely a honey trap, the refusal to release the Epstein file suddenly makes a lot more sense. I don't know if that's the case or not. They might. There is a. People sometimes will say. People will sometimes say like PragerU. If someone is like a PragerU person, then they're like an Israeli intelligence operative, which is. I don't think she's like Mossad or anything. I don't know. I don't know how real the ancient masculinity account is. Sorry to report. The CEO of PragerU is a former Israeli intelligence, former Illinois intelligence. I like to think that he was a member of the Mossad, but for Illinois, the great, wonderful state. That's what he was up to. While Israel does not seek direct confrontation with Turkey nor intends to employ such capabilities imminently, it must ensure operational capacity to strike Turkish military assets similar to demonstrated actions against Iranian threats. Yet this war is inevitable. How wild would it be if Israel, not Russia or China, that ended up triggering the collapse of NATO by attacking Turkey, knowing full well which side the U.S. would choose if it came down to it? I don't know about this. I don't think that America would protect Turkey if Israel directly struck Turkey and like waged war against NATO. I think America would probably scale Israel's actions back before it got to that level. Trump don't give a fuck about NATO. That's also false. Don't ever say that. Trump loves NATO. Please stop. Trump has never done anything remotely anti-NATO. The only thing it's done is in his first term, he basically forced all of the NATO countries to follow along with Obama's initial demands that they spend more. They increase their GDP expenditures on weapons contracts. He just basically made them do it. Okay. And then Biden continued that. And now he's increasing those expenditure demands. Didn't he get us out of NATO? No. What? Yeah. Anyway, we got Bill O'Reilly. We got some other stuff to talk about with respect to... we have engaged all parties involved in the clashes in Syria. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made. And this is what we fully expect them to do. And what they're demanding is like that the Syrian government stand down. History Speaks says, it is well known that Israeli Druze tend to be patriotic Israelis. However, non-Israeli Druze tend to have anti-Israel views. For example, about 86% of Druze in Lebanon supported the 7th of October attack on Israel. Are we supposed to believe that Israel feels brotherhood with non-Israeli Druze and wants to go to war to help them? They don't even treat their own, again, largely patriotic Druze citizens with equal rights in Israel. That's it. But once again, Israel has a right to defend itself, okay? Israel has a right to defend itself. And if you say that it's crazy that Israel is like bombing Syria, then you're being anti-Semitic. Please don't say that. I will not allow that kind of that's the maximum anti-Semitism. Okay? That's basically praising Adolf Hitler when you say Israel should not bomb Syria. Please don't do that. Anyway, let's get to Epstein. Speaking of Israel, let's get back to Jeffrey Jebediah Epstein. And our big, beautiful boy, Donald Trump, who is seemingly very upset that people keep asking about Epstein. People keep asking about Epstein. Okay. Do you feel like this is a distraction from Epstein? No. Here's another effort post from Donald Trump on Truth Social. It reads as follows. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again, just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier the lying 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had nothing to do with Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. He's trying so hard to make fetch happen, bro. This is so funny. He's like, come on, guys. It's the new hoax. Trust me on this, okay? Yeah, we're all calling it that. Everyone's calling it behind the scenes. You're calling it that too. You're calling it that. And if you're not calling it, you're bad. You're wrong. Okay? And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit. Ooh, he's being bad. Hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will. Even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years, I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. And all these people want to talk about with strong prodding by fake news and the success-starved Dems is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, which everyone is calling it that. Everyone is calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. If I see you calling it something else, I'll get very mad. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success, because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. It is pretty funny that he hasn't been able to figure out a way to like get out of this narrative hole. Okay. And as a consequence of that, he's even losing like Tim Pool, which is a Israel and Russia crony. But I guess Tim Pool also knows which way the wind is blowing, or maybe he didn't get his notes from the Israeli state. Once he gets his notes from the Israeli state, perhaps he will change his tune. Ukraine is the enemy of the world.
Trump is miserably screwing this up, unless for some reason this was his intent. This one's hurting the Trump team, his base, very much so. You're not going to get out of this one with Trump supporters, prominent individuals being like, guys, let's just trust the plan here. That ain't happening. And there are ways to handle this, and this ain't it. With this massive post by Trump, it's getting bad.
I love what a chatter said about getting a taste of Democratic medicine where the base gets nothing they want. And even now, we see the same. Now Republicans saying, stop spoiling. Just be happy with what you have. Yeah. Peak Alex Jones here. Oh, hell yeah. Alex Jones responds to Trump excommunicating him. You're not the Pope, bro. Wait, where is it?
About 50. A jellyfish has a higher IQ, in case you didn't know, than 50. Some of the 50 IQ can barely form words. It's a no-brainer, Trump, that you want this to go away because you know they've spiked the file. I believe it. That makes sense. God, it's totally intuitive. There it is.
He's still trying to glaze Trump. Is so funny. He's like, Donald Trump is trying to excommunicate me for being a brave truth info warrior, but it's all right. I know that Donald Trump, Mr. President, was not involved directly in this. Okay, AlexJones.com, Infowars.com.
I'm bad for saying you should stop telling people to shut up. Again, you're 10 years old. Your parents are going to church. They say you don't have to go today. And they say, whatever you do, don't go look in the Chester drawers in front of the bed. My parents never did that. It's just hypothetical. Where are you going as soon as their car drives off? You're going to see what's in there. I mean, this is sick. This is bizarre. And I will not take the blame, Trump, for what you're doing to yourself. So I know you tried to take the alcohol away from your older brother, who was a great guy, who drank himself to death.
Ooh.
Were you a bad person?
Ooh, he's getting personal with it.
Telling your brother he was killing himself? No. Your brother got mad at you. You talked about it.
That's crazy. He's talking about Trump's alcoholic brother who died. God damn, it's getting spicy over here, brother. Holy moly.
I am trying to get you to take the political gun out of your mouth. You already blown both your feet off. And now you got it shoved in your mouth. I'm like, will you please take that out of your mouth? You're like, shut up. Don't talk about it. You have put the gun in your mouth and ours collectively. Stop it. Stop it.
You're fucking up the bag for us, Mr. President. Why are you doing this? Dude, this is like cinema, okay? This is cinema. It's playing out exactly as I said it is. There is like this is the first time where there's like a real, genuine fissure in the base, and Trump cannot consolidate support for the life of him. And basically, this is where you find out who is like a hatchet man for the Republican base, or for the Republican Party, and of course is Trump's party, so Donald Trump, and who is more invested in leaning into narratives that the majority cares about. In the past, we didn't really get to experience this kind of fissure amongst the quote unquote supposedly independent media outlets, with the exception of, I guess, Israel, because like, you know, Ben Shapiro's dick riding of Israel definitely got out of hand. And it pissed off a lot of people, but in the Republican base. But outside of that, like, usually Trump gives everything in the culture war stuff, in the culture war side of things, to his base. He always gives them the treats. So no one in the independent side of the Republican media apparatus has ever had trouble saying that they're independent while simultaneously defending Trump. This is a moment where he's not doing that. He's actually directly at odds with the popular support from the base of the Republican Party, from the MAGA base. So you're recognizing who is actually a loyal servant of Trump, and by extension, the Republican Party, and who is more so invested in repeating whatever the base wants. Alex Jones is in the middle. On the one hand, he is still desperately trying to cling on to Donald Trump. On the other hand, he recognizes what the people want, what his audience wants, what the base is demanding. And at this point, they'll still talk about how like big of a failure this is for Trump, like how he's fucking it up, how he's fucking this up. It's just a mistake. But eventually this is going to boil. Eventually this kind of tension is going to lead to people actually separating from Donald Trump aggressively. And these are some of the most insane people, okay? These are some of the craziest people out there. They have an arsenal of weapons, and they believe in whatever kind of conspiracy, some real and some totally fucking insane and fake. You don't want to piss these motherfuckers off. Donald Trump has had numerous attempts on his life. 2 of those attempts were conducted by a registered Republican and a former Trump voter. Ryan Ruth, big-time NATO Andy for sure, but literally was a former Trump voter. You don't want to piss these guys off. You don't want them to do a Pizzagate to you, okay? I'd be very careful if I was like a famous Republican media personality that is aggressively defending Donald Trump here at a time when there is unprecedented anger and resentment directed at Trump. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, you don't want Pizzagate to turn into Mar-a-Lago Gate. Let's take a look at what Megyn Kelly is saying on the other hand.
As Trump has managed to call large portions of the MAGA base that are still interested in Epstein and want answers selfish, weaklings. He doesn't want their support, and that they're believing in a Democrat-created hoax. You know, there's all sorts of, substantive responses to that on the Epstein merits, but I'm not interested in that for now. I'm interested in the politics of it, Rich.
Yeah. So he's in the phase he often is in when he's in the midst of these controversies. I think spaghetti against the wall phase, and then he'll see what sticks and then go with that. But I don't think it's a great idea to make the connection to the Russia hoax, which was about him. So this kind of implies that this also is about him. Right? I don't think it really is. And the idea that he doesn't know where this is coming from, and it was all created by Democrats, this has been more of a matter of interest for the right, including the highest officials in his Justice Department, right? Pam Bondi talked about it. Kash Patel talked about it. Bongino talked about it.
What we
Yep. He's basically, by the way, he's literally saying what I said yesterday, which is that he's pulling almost like an Israel route by not reading the room appropriately. This won't actually cause people in his base to go, oh, this is fake, just like the Russia hoax was fake. It will cause them to go, wait a minute, this is real. So does that mean the Russia hoax wasn't a hoax at all? I don't think that they'll make that logical leap, okay? But like, it's not working. My point is, it's not fucking working because obviously this is a very important thing for a lot of people in his base, understandably so. This is the one time where they're like they're kind of on the money with this conspiracy. So when are you interviewing Lina Khan? I don't know if you know this, but I already have.
President Trump, would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation?
I have nothing to do with it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Why would you say it like that? Why would you say it like that? What a wild thing to say. Also, I mean, we already talked about this, but like, this was really funny. Guy who absolutely despises Donald Trump, an incredibly prominent critic of Donald Trump, only turns around and like speaks in favor of Trump to defend the Epstein client list, and it not existing. The Epstein client list is real. So is the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, says Stephen King. Prominent Trump critic Stephen King only comes out to say something that's like ostensibly pro-Trump when Trump's base is fucking yelling at him over the Epstein list not being revealed. Then he goes, boy, I hit a nerve with that Epstein post. The list is like UFOs. Everyone knows someone who's seen one. Oh boy. Oh brother. Oh, how odd. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. What does that mean? I mean, I think I know what that means. If you know the ending of the book, it's not shocking. Did Epstein traffic young girls? Yes, of course. Is there a client list? Doubtful. Conspiracy fodder. He is still talking about it. He's still talking about it. That's weird, man. That's weird. Why are you... See, the thing I don't understand is like, these guys could just keep quiet. I mean, that's literally what the Clintons did, right? The Clintons just kept pushing. You will never catch them talking about Epstein's unless it's directly talking to Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell in one of their numerous and I guess exciting experiences that they had together. Okay. I don't understand why these motherfuckers come out and they're like, guys, by the way, this thing that everyone knows is very real. This thing that everyone is broadly aware of. I just want everyone to know, yeah, it's fake. Actually, it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. Please stop asking further questions. Like at least the Clintons, who were directly involved with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, knew better than to constantly talk about it. To be fair, TrueAnon also says the client list is fake. Like he didn't keep a list. If there's one list, is a list of all the people on tape. Yes, the Jeffrey Epstein client list is basically just like, that's just semantics, okay? That is just a semantics argument. I don't engage in it because it's stupid. When you're talking about that, you're not talking literally that like Jeffrey Epstein had all of the clients and like what kind of underage person was trafficked with every single client on one neatly put together list. When people are talking about it, or at least when I'm talking about it, I'm referencing verifiable evidence of the people that we know have been directly involved with Jeffrey Epstein and to what extent their involvement was with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? That's what I'm referencing. No, the little black book is not the client list. Those are just people who he had the information of and has been in contact with. Okay? That's it. When people are looking for evidence, when people are looking for like the client list, they're actually referencing like the extent of the involvement with people that we know of and people that we don't know of but suspect of being involved with Jeffrey Jebediah Epstein. Doors open. Aya's back from her spa day. What is happening? Coming through the main gate. Lobo says Matt Gaetz would be good as special counsel investigating the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up, which I think is really interesting that she's saying that. I feel like he'd be the worst, but what do I know?
Saying it, yeah.
Here is a reporter asking Trump straight out if he'll ask Pam Bondi to release more Epstein files.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
You know, whatever's credible, she can release. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good. But it's just really, it's just a subject. He's dead. He's gone. And all it is the Republicans, certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats, and they're following a Democrat playbook. And no different than Russia, and all the other hoaxes. They're started by the Democrats, and some Republicans, in this case I was surprised, but they got duped.
But have you talked about it? Have you talked about it with her the last witness?
President, first of all, your high-ranking officials, whether it's been your FBI director or Pam Bondi, they have made some inconsistent statements in the past. You've had.
Well, I don't know. I can't speak about him. Very good. She says, I gave you all the credible information. And if she finds any more credible information, she'll give that too. What more can she do than that? I mean, honestly, what more can she do? And we do have bigger problems. You know, we have problems with millions of illegal people that came in here, and they're killers and murderers. We have 11,888 murderers that were allowed into our country by Biden, sleepy Joe Biden, stupid Joe Biden. He allowed them into our country. And you know what? We got to do something about it. She's got a lot of things she's working on. And, you know, it's very sad that somebody can be waylaid, that just get waylaid. But I think she's doing a great job, personally.
This morning,
Yeah.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen
It's
of
not
that?
the Attorney General, no. I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters, and Comey before him. And
for those of you who are consistently asking the question, why wouldn't he just release a fucking client list with like fake names on it and like implicate the Democrats? Because this is bipartisan, okay? Unlimited support to Israel is bipartisan. And billionaires doing getting involved in an elite pedophile sex trafficking ring is also bipartisan. So you can't just like fuck the liberals involved without fucking yourself. That's it. As I've said before, this is the mutual assured pedophilia, mutually assured destruction in the form of pedophilia and involvement with an elite pedophile sex trafficking ring. That's it. That's it. That's why he can't just like cynically say, oh, this is just the liberals, even though they did say it. They did say it over and over again, but not that this was even a factor, but it's not like his base would have believed it if it came out while Biden was president. That's not, I mean, it wouldn't have ever happened because of the things that I just mentioned, because everyone is involved in this, right? Liberals and specifically like liberal elites and also Republican elites. These guys, also the very same guys, fund both parties. It's not like they are truly on one side. Both parties, to a certain degree, represent their interests. And therefore, these guys will hedge their bets. These guys will fund both sides.
And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking.
He really thinks like hitting this line is gonna fucking drum up support. Like it's as though, like, for example, here I'll give you areas where it could potentially pick apart some in the base. Like if he was talking about Israel, right? He can just like kind of get some of the people who are already like motivated to defend Israel in the most in the most pro-Israel part of his base is like the evangelical Zionists specifically. He could always be like, yep, that's right. The Democrats, they're Palestinian. Chuck Schumer's Palestinian. They they love Palestine, they love Hamas, right? Like he could do that, and then maybe some would be like, yeah, that's right. Because like this is not that in the order of priority, like Trump stopping wars is not as high as a priority as like the Epstein stuff is. Okay. This is directly something that he promised and something that like many of his boosters promised, something that many of his boosters care about. Okay. And for him not to, he thinks he can like hit this on a partisan angle and be like, oh, this is just a hoax. When it's like, well, okay, you said the hoax over and over again. You were saying that this wasn't a hoax before you got elected. Now that you're in charge, like all of a sudden it's a hoax. Get the fuck out of here.
Candidates that can get elected, like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements we've had, a great gentleman. Yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy.
The best part about it is that the more media asks him about this, the more he has to talk about it. And the more he talks about it and deflects away from it, the more people get angry and agitated in his base of support, especially.
Who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like Trump thinks his base is stupid.
Why'd they say?
Channel 4 is getting involved. Talking about Trump says Epstein case is a scam, lashing out at his supporters.
Thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible shit. Why'd they say that?
Right.
Didn't Pam Bondi say that?
We are going to try to get to the bottom of what's knowable now that they're telling us there's no there there. I mean, for me, that's just a red cape in front of a bull.
The MAGA movement in a civil war.
Ladies and gentlemen, our president.
Normally,
I love seeing the one thing that the Trump base does unironically and actively care about, to a degree where like they might even drop support of Trump over. Okay, respect. Like I'll take it. I'll take anything at this point.
Failingly loyal allies of President Trump, angry and suspicious of his backtracking.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
all right. I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
Now, after tantalizing his supporters throughout the campaign, he's changed his tune.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, disagrees.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything.
Yeah, they voted to not release it, like himself included. The fuck do you mean? Oh, they should release it. Like, this is, again, a thing that people do actually legitimately care about, okay? Which is precisely the reason why when these guys actually do the Democratic Party move, because they're behaving like the Democrats. They're behaving exactly like the Democrats. Good things are not possible. The things that we ran on, it's not happening, okay? That's precisely what's happening here. And the base is like, what do you mean? This is the thing that you actually do. You don't do this kind of shit. This is why we trust you. This is why we believe you. What the hell's going on? Johnny MAGA. Riley Gaines says, was it stupid and foolish when he campaigned on releasing the files? Are Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Alina Habba all foolish and stupid for peddling this for the past 6 months? Why on earth is he doing this? I fucking love this, man. I love this. God, I'm sorry. This is crack for me, okay? It's crack for me, not because like I love standing here and being like, I told you so. It's crack for me because I do think that this is like finally a real recognition amongst this like actual cult-like fandom that perhaps Trump is also deep in the pocket of elite pedophiles in the same way that every other fucking administration has been. Perhaps this is a watershed moment for a lot of people to go, wait a minute, Wait, he's not different at all. He's just like them. There's endless potential in this kind of volatility for people to be corrected, to recognize that, like, this is actually, we are all united on class interests. Cenk was right. No, Cenk said this over fucking wars, which I disagree with. I don't think that is it has caused a major fissure in the base. Nothing like the Epstein stuff. Come on, man. Come on now, man. Surely Trump is in the pocket of elite pedophiles. Surely he is their pocket, their change, their handler, all of the above. Yeah, like this is unique because, like, look, Republicans will make promises and they will make good on those promises. Now, the impact of that legislative agenda might be devastating in the long run, right? And people might realize that the things that they voted for, they might not enjoy or appreciate. Like in the case of abortion, for example, we saw that play itself out. We're seeing that with the immigration raids that are taking place right now. A lot of people don't like it. And they're like, oh, I didn't vote for this. It's like, well, you did, right? But this is one of those things where, like, he has directly promised something and has all the power to release it, all the power to make good on that promise, and is refusing to do so in a way that is inviting a lot of suspicion with Trump's personal involvement. Because if he is an anti-establishment figure that many people voted for him on those boundaries, all of a sudden he comes across as maybe not an anti-establishment figure. Maybe he is the establishment. Because for a lot of these people, especially in the Trump base of support, they see, oh my God, my mom. Oh, ben daha sonra gidiyorsun zannediyordum. Okay, for a lot of these people, this is perhaps the best way to spell whether you're with the establishment or against the establishment with the Trump shit, with the Epstein stuff. Epstein is seen as like a placeholder for class warfare. It's seen as like a thing that liberals do, or a thing that like elites in society do, mostly liberals from the perspective of the Trump base, obviously. And finally, this is supposed to be unearthed. Like, this is their only way of seeing some semblance of class warfare is basically through the lens of conspiracy. And of course, with respect to the Epstein stuff, it's not really a conspiracy theory so much as it is just a real conspiracy to do a blackmail operation for at the behest of intelligence agencies, including the Mossad and also the CIA. So this is a direct line of attack against like why someone who is like anti-establishment would vote for Donald Trump. All of a sudden, they're like, wait a minute, you are pro-establishment then.
Out there and let the people decide it.
With even his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, unhappy.
Well, I do think that there needs to be more transparency on this.
But Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, isn't on board.
Not going to talk about Epstein.
A memo published by her Justice Department said they found no incriminating Epstein client list, despite Bondi herself claiming it existed in February.
And one of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
For Trump's often conspiracy-prone MAGA base, the confusion is sparking concern and consternation after Elon Musk alleged Trump himself was in the files, which would be unsurprising given the pair's long history. It's unclear when Trump first met Epstein, but in 2002, Trump told New York Magazine he was a terrific guy he'd known for 15 years, which would date back to the late 1980s. Video was discovered showing Epstein partying with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida in 1992. The pair watch and point at cheerleaders dancing. In the background of the video is Epstein's close associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Throughout the 90s, Trump, Epstein and Maxwell attended parties together in New York and Palm Beach, where Epstein kept a residence, famously visited by Prince Andrew. Flight logs previously released by the Attorney General Pam Bondi showed Trump, his then-wife Marla Maples and daughter Tiffany frequently flew on Epstein's private jet. In Epstein's black book, 14 different numbers for Trump, his close family and staff were found. Epstein claimed that in 1998 he introduced Trump to his third wife Melania at a party in Manhattan. In that 2002 New Yorker magazine article, Trump famously described his friend as a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Dude, I said this already when Bob Woodward was coming out with his like massive Epstein connection with Donald Trump is like way bigger than we previously thought, reporting right up until the election, and the Democrats were noticeably quiet about it. I knew why they were quiet about it, because of the fucking Clintons, because of the goddamn Clintons. This, like, unironically, if this was a conversation alongside this exact same coverage was being shepherded by the Democrats, alongside Kamala Harris, like, making inroads with the pro-Palestinian movement, the election could have turned out very differently, straight up. But they didn't want to do it, obviously, because clearly it's their own donors are involved with Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't want to upset or offend their own fucking donors that they love, okay?
But in 2004, Trump and Epstein's relationship reportedly broke down over a Mar-a-Lago property deal. A year later, Florida police began investigating Epstein in relation to sex trafficking. In 2008, he was convicted but negotiated a plea deal granting him immunity from federal prosecution after pleading guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution. Ever since, Trump has sought to distance himself and downplay his relationship with Epstein. In 2019, Epstein was facing federal charges of sex trafficking minors when he died by suicide while in custody in New York. This week, questions have emerged over the integrity.
Under the Trump administration, by the way, under the watchful eye of the Trump administration, where he died under mysterious circumstances that the government quickly ruled as suicide, I don't believe that.
Of the CCTV around the time of his death. Dan Bongino, now Trump's deputy FBI director, was one of many right-wing influencers who made vast amounts of Epstein-related content.
Does it have anything to do with the extensive video network alleged to have existed on his island and on his plane?
He's reportedly angry at the administration's U-turn in releasing the files and has threatened to resign.
USA! USA!
For Trump, who benefited from fueling conspiracy theories like birtherism and QAnon in the past, he may be facing consequences himself with his base for having engaged in the Epstein speculation, given his own history. Well, joining us now to discuss all this is Robert Topinka, senior lecturer at Birkbeck School of Creative Arts, Culture and Communication. Robert, why have the Epstein files captured the imagination of MAGA?
Well, the Epstein files have become this sort of respectable way for MAGA supporters to refer to the QAnon conspiracy theory and tap into the energy from that conspiracy theory, this idea.
Yeah, except unlike QAnon, this is not fake. That's the difference. Like, with QAnon, this is the other side of like the liberal conversation here, where they're like, haha, I told you so, right? Like, if you, yeah, leopards eating your face, huh, Donald Trump? You like trafficked in a lot of conspiracies, so now look what the conspiracy crowd is doing to you. And it's like, it's not. This is not like a fucking phony, insane conspiracy theory in the way that fucking QAnon is. That's the difference. The night he died, we had to cancel a show with Chapo in Brooklyn because the venue flooded. There were cars floating down the street. It's all connected. Trump controlled the weather to cover up our truth. Oh, yeah. Trump didn't want you guys to do it.
Yeah, that Democrats were behind a corrupt system of child sex trafficking. Epstein became sort of the figurehead for that movement, came to be identified with that movement. And throughout the campaign, Trump officials, Trump himself, J.D. Vance, Dan Bongino, the deputy director.
I'm gonna be honest. I said this already. I didn't think that this was ever going to. I didn't think this was ever going to be released, regardless. For the reasons why it's not being released right now, obviously, evidently. But the way that the liberals are trying to fucking message and use this, I think they're doing it because they know it'll never be released. I think they know that Trump will never release this. Like any sort of evidence, that was unearthed and discovered. And that is precisely the reason why they can posture. That's why you have Kevin Spacey, Alan Dershowitz, people who are directly affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein, coming out and comfortably making these sorts of statements, knowing full well that Donald Trump is never going to release it. That's why the very same Democrats that never made a big deal about the Epstein files when they were in charge are now using it as an opportunity to fucking hit against the Trump administration, even though there is obviously this is the Democrats presenting this as a way to troll, quote unquote, the MAGA base is going to be short-lived. Look, scoop, internal Dems are polling from Blue Rose and Future Forward Memo explain why Dems are trolling GOP hard on Epstein. It's a way into maybe this guy doesn't have your back, and that's been one of the hardest things for Dems to do. But the opening may be short-lived. Democratic strategists said they do not expect Epstein-related conspiracies to show up in their TV ads or dominate the party's midterm messaging, with the GOP mega bill likely to take center stage. I'm focused on the damage that the one big bad bill is doing, and I'm going to stay focused on that, said Representative Brad Schneider, chair of the centrist New Democrat Coalition. And if the president's covering up something, I'll let him deal with that. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to focus on the damage of the big bad bill. Okay. I think that's a good thing because it's true. That bill is going to rip apart families. It's going to destroy the working class base of support that Trump has in rural communities. Okay. But there is no reason not to use this as well. And I think they're basically signaling that they're not going to, they're going to hit this line. Also pretty funny that they only finally went after Clinton associate because Shore's fuck-ass firm said so. I imagine that being an unstoppable force versus an immovable object situation for them. The real big part of the story is that the FF/Blue Rose seemed to be dictating Dem messaging despite playing a leading role in the loss. Either the speculation that they'd lose clout was overblown, or the CYA stories about how they wanted to focus on the economy worked. You can do both, okay? You can have your cake and eat it too. You can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. They should not let go of the Epstein stuff, and they should actually push to release these files. Not only because it's like a cynical calculation to rip apart Trump's base and sever ties with as many people from the Trump's base as possible, but also because, simultaneously still talk about the big bad bill too. Wow, a rare Hassan W take. If you think this kind of take is rare, then you've only watched me through the lens of haters. I do love when people actually do come in like global events that they care about, where they come in and join the chat, and for the first time actually experience me without the negative lens that people oftentimes present me in. And then they go, oh, wow, I agree with this person. You will find yourself agreeing with a lot of the things that I'm saying if you actually come in and watch me directly, as opposed to watch me through 17-second clips that some fucking weird fuck ass clipped out of context. It was really funny when they were like, when a lot of people were like saying this about my pro-Palestinian position. They're like, I used to hate Hassan, but it turns out he's like rare Hassan W on Palestine. It's like, bro, I've been doing this since you were shitting in your diapers. Okay? Like, you watch everyone else. The difference, don't you think the difference between me, a content creator, and you, a content watcher, is that I might know these people, sometimes personally? Think. I might know them personally. I might have had familial relationships with them. Exactly. That's so smug. But it's the truth. What do you mean? It comes across as smug, but it's literally the fucking truth. Yes. The people that I am talking about that are like content creators that are clipping me out of context, sometimes I have a fucking podcast with them in the past. Sometimes I've appeared on their podcast in the past as well. There's an entire ecosystem designed around presenting me in the most negative light possible, which is why I don't really get mad at people when they get too mad at people when they just have like a negative association with my name, because it's like, you're literally hate watching Trump every day. What are we talking about? Hate watching Trump? He's the president. Please stop thinking about things from the framework of slop tubers, dude. Holy fuck. I'm hate watching the president, the most powerful person on the planet. Ironically enough, I don't just watch anti-Trump content. I watch Trump uninterrupted for hours at a time. And I also watch more pro-Trump content than I watch anti-Trump content. That's crazy. Anyway, President Trump campaigned on getting men out of women's sports, something you've built your entire brand off, and he delivered. He didn't mention Epstein one time at a campaign rally. Shameful how disloyal some people are. Oh, he didn't campaign on unearthing a deep state pedophiles. Got it. Thank you, Johnny Manga.
FBI, when he was still hosting a podcast, relentlessly teased the release of the Epstein files. They even had some MAGA influencers come to the White House to receive a binder that said Epstein files phase 1. So they've really teased it. They've really built it up. And now for Trump to say, I don't know why everyone is talking about this, let's move on, has sort of split the movement.
And we've seen in recent years, as you mentioned, conspiracies like QAnon and Pizzagate relating to children. They go very viral, preying on an understandable general concern for the welfare of minors. Have the Epstein files just become a catch-all for this kind of sentiment, or is it to do with the sort of influencer mechanism, ecosystem of generating content, which has really stirred all this up?
Well, I mean, it's really both. I mean, the Epstein story captures two of the big kind of themes of QAnon, which is child sex trafficking, which Epstein was himself engaged in, and the idea that Hollywood and Washington, D.C. elite are in on it. And certainly there have been, releases of names who Epstein was associated with, friends with, some of which may or may not have been, traveling to his island with him. But it brings together this idea that there's a kind of connection between Hollywood, D.C., and child sex trafficking. So Epstein captures those things together. And then because there have been so many kind of court reports, releases, incomplete information, it creates fodder for influencers online to sort of tease a new release, to say, oh, I have some insight into these files, to say someone needs to come along and reveal what's really behind all this. And Trump was promised to be the person who did that. So that's part of the betrayal now, with him saying, why is everyone talking about this all of a sudden?
So do you think Trump has created this problem for himself by incorporating their release into his campaign message last year?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a surprise. I mean, I think he could have kept teasing it, really, because some QAnon influencers are already saying, actually, this is a sign that Trump is going to release the real files later, that these are just the files Obama left him and they've been doctored. People are alighting on the phrase Trump used in one of his Truth Social posts, referring to Epstein as a guy who never dies. And they're saying, oh, this is a sign that Epstein's really alive and that Trump can't tell us now, but he's going to tell us further down the line. So he could have kept doing that, I think. But with Pam Bondi repeatedly saying, oh, I have the list of, Epstein's associates on my desk, I'm going to review it and release it. They got a little too specific with it, really, and saying that they were going to release the actual files and reveal all, and then to suddenly turn around and say, actually, nothing happened, there's nothing to see here. It's a tough look. But I do think some of the more committed MAGA faithful will find a way to spin it into promise of a future revelation.
He has midterm elections next year. How big an issue could this be for him with his own base, given his close relationship with Epstein in the past?
Yeah, I mean, Steve Bannon has been worrying about this, Trump's former advisor, saying, what if we lose 10% of the MAGA base? That'd be enough to affect us at the midterms. You see people like Andrew Schultz, the comedian, who's kind of associated with the manosphere and been one of these people, along with figures like Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, who have been credited with Trump's success in the last election. They're expressing disillusionment. So if he does lose some of these people who are not necessarily super committed MAGA supporters, but see Trump as someone who can stand outside the establishment and critique it and question it, if he loses that authenticity in the eyes of those supporters, it could hurt him, because I mean the margin of victory was not that massive in the last election, and he captured people who he didn't capture before, partly because he was seen as this kind of free-thinking outsider. So if he loses that status, it could really hurt the MAGA movement.
NPR called Epstein's involvement with Israel a conspiracy theory and anti-Semitic on Up First this morning. Oh my God. You don't understand, guys. You don't understand. Jeffrey Epstein and his affiliates like Ghislaine Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell's family, for example, being directly involved with multiple former Israeli prime ministers is a pure coincidence. It is totally, totally anti-Semitic to ask the question why former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak was routinely visiting Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion and trying to do the shittiest job of hiding his identity when frequenting the Jeffrey Epstein mansion in New York City, far after it was known that he was a sex trafficker of minors. Please do not ask this question. Okay, this is very, very, very anti-Semitic, deeply disturbing. Okay, deeply, deeply disturbing stuff.
And can the Democrats capitalize on this now at all, given the Republicans have peddled false conspiracies like birtherism with President Obama and the Clintons being violent criminals? Is this something they can weaponize now?
I think they could. I mean, so far they seem to be a little reluctant to do so. It seems like an obvious political win for them. But of course, Epstein had connections in the Democratic Party as well. They've also bungled previous attempts to attack Trump, the Russiagate scandal that Trump was able to turn against them. So I think there's some caution there because he was so successful referring to the Russia hoax, as he likes to call it. And again, he's bringing that up again as he tries to defend his decision not to release the Epstein files. So I think they have been burnt in the past by this, and they're still a bit disorganized and unsure how to respond to him. But it does seem like an obvious opportunity for them.
And do you think Trump might do something now to try and distract from this whole scandal?
Yeah, he is. I mean, and you can see his supporters taking up the lead on this. I mean, they've been flouting and Alligator Alcatraz, praising ICE, pointing to the auto pen scandal, as they describe it, with Joe Biden having used an auto pen to sign key documents. So they're definitely trying to shift the discussion to something else. And we'll see how successful it can be. I mean, right now there are still people who...
This morning, President Trump facing unprecedented criticism from some of his biggest supporters.
This has been the first fracture in MAGA
over the Justice Department's handling of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. For days, many on the right have been criticizing Attorney General Pam Bondi's decision not to release the files, but now high-profile figures, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, weighing in.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it.
And podcaster Joe Rogan, an influential Trump ally in the last election, mocking the administration's response.
Like, look, where's the Epstein files? Boo, can't find them. Don't exist. Like, they can get away with man.
Oh, yeah. Bondi has said there are Epstein files, but concluded Epstein did not leave behind an incriminating client list and that he died by suicide in 2019 while awaiting trial.
Nothing to see here, folks. Also, here's the uninterrupted raw footage that we actually interrupted and edited in Premiere.
Contradicting right-wing conspiracy theories that he was murdered. Rogan criticizing Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel.
Kash Patel said there's nothing you're looking for. Oh, okay.
For his part, President Trump dismissing the interest.
He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is.
And after his daughter-in-law said there needs to be more transparency, I asked the president about her comment.
Do you agree with her, sir? The Attorney General's handled that very well.
He has stood by Bondi's judgment.
Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
Trump, like many celebrities, was seen with Epstein in the 90s, but later said they had a falling out, and by the time Epstein was arrested, that he had not spoken to him in 15 years. Asked about Bondi's review.
Did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen.
The Attorney General yesterday deflecting questions about the controversy, but asked about those calling for change at the Justice Department.
I'm going to be here for as long as the president wants me here.
House Speaker Mike Johnson also signaled he'd support having Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell testify before Congress, saying he's for transparency. Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison for conspiring with Epstein. Her family is now speaking out, arguing she did not receive a fair trial and hoping the Supreme Court will hear her appeal. Savannah?
Gabe Gutierrez.
Budfeld, after defending calling himself a Nazi and taking ownership over the movement, today is still trying to actively defend the Trump administration. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Not enough, but the Dems are great at saying, yeah, you know, it didn't work out the first time, but just give us a chance and we'll make it better. This is why Trump is good. Even when you're pissed off about Epstein, He's not perfect, but when he's not perfect, he's still good. The problem with all these other...
Oh my God. Am I watching MSNBC explain harm reduction? Except this time, you're trying to explain harm reduction voting to a base that doesn't play by those rules at all and never has and never will, because their expectation is you're supposed to whip up panicked hysteria around certain narratives, and then you're supposed to actually capitalize on that by offering red meat. Like the example here, the example I use here is claiming that trans people represent like a real threat to the American public over and over again, only to, once you get into power, only to turn around and be like, actually, we can't, or capitalize, sorry. Did I say capitalize? What is, my brain is so busted, I'm sorry. Capitalize. It would be like if the Trump base, after telling everyone that, trans people represent like a grave threat to Western empire or whatever, and getting at least enough people in the base to believe this lie, if you were to turn around and be like, actually, we can't do anything about trans people. We can't even like stop the 40 trans athletes from participating in NCAA. Actually, it's good that trans people are still participating in sports and there's not anything that we could do about it. You know, sorry, sucks to suck. Yeah, the base would probably, I mean, and this is not even as important of a cause for Trump's base of support as is the Epstein stuff. Like, so the example I'm using is not even a direct analog here. Do you understand? They're used to getting treats. They're used to winning culture war issues. Okay? You don't get the promise and whip up hysteria on a really pivotal on a really pivotal issue such as this one for the base of support, only to turn around and be like, yeah, you don't get it. Good things aren't possible. Especially when everyone knows you do have a lot of power over releasing this information. Because this isn't something like I was going to end the wars and then not being able to deliver on ending the wars on day one. Okay? One, ending the wars is not that big of a deal for a lot in the base of support. And two, it's not entirely in your hands. Like you can't just, end a foreign adversary's illegal incursion into Ukraine, right? You can't do that. You can't unilaterally decide it's over now. That's far more difficult. So people are most likely going to be a lot more understanding of what your inability is to stop Russia's invasion into Ukraine.
Things that Dems do, they have to be perfect to work. So it's like capitalism. It can be frustrating and it can be prone to flaws, but it doesn't have to be perfect to make the world work.
I've been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in the Coke in the United States, and they've agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This is a very good move by them. You'll see. It's just better. Wow, cane sugar. I've totally forgot about the Epstein files now. Yeah. Don't make perfect an enemy of the good is already a failure for the Democrats in terms of like galvanizing their base of support, in terms of bringing out the masses to go out and vote for you. It is going to be an even larger failure for the Republicans, because the Republicans have always fucking said, yeah, fuck harm reduction, dog. We are going to give you exactly what you want. And if you don't have anything that you can pay attention to, we'll make sure you find something to pay attention to. We'll whip up hysteria around, I don't know, undocumented migrants. Here is my queen, Jessica Tarkov, doing the Lord's work, saying 75% of Republicans want the files out there.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, and he will, by the way, be getting no credit for anything that any of you are excited about if he cannot sort out his answer on the Epstein files.
But don't pretend to care about that. Yeah. But you're speaking on that from a political perspective, not a moral one, so it doesn't matter.
Of course it matters.
I actually am interested in it.
I'm interested
Jessica,
in...
You never brought it up for years.
That's not true.
Jessica, the polls are so boring.
Fine. How about the humans? Mike Flynn, you're a human. Charlie Kirk, you're a human. Steve Bannon, you're a human. They're all mad.
Now you're on their side. What a coincidence. She's now wants to know about Epstein now that Trump's in the office. Didn't care when Biden was there. What else do you care about? Who ran the presidency?
What?
Did you actually care who was running the White House when Joe was in office? Did you care about that?
This is such an incredible deflection. No. I'm talking about why this president is not doing a good job on everything from the border.
But you just said he just closed the border permanently, Jessica.
If a policy, go ahead.
You are
conflating.
No, Jessica. You are conflating legal with illegal.
They're so mad, bro. They're so fucking mad. Oh my God. Oh, this is awesome.
Illegal. I get it because he's winning on illegal. Doesn't work.
Okay. All right, up.
Oh, this is fucking fantastic.
Leading us off from the White House. Thank you. And we began with the cracks in MAGA world growing deeper as President Trump insists it's time to move on from the Jeffrey Epstein.
I think, like, if the Democrats were to operate like Republicans, they'd be calling Trump a pedophile, sex criminal right now. And I'm I know why they won't do it, because partially because, like, their own donors are implicated in the Epstein shit. But the Republicans are shameless, and the Dems should be too. They should be like, yeah, fucking release it, or you're a pedophile. Release the Epstein files, or you're a fucking pedophile, dude. Come on. You can use interesting techniques like pedophile sex trafficker says what? Like, you can say that real quick to have them go what? And be like, oh, got him. Many different techniques out there.
Case. The calls for his administration to release its files on the notorious sex offender now moving from talk radio to the halls of Congress, with some of his biggest supporters, including the House Speaker, urging the president and his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to change course.
This has been the first fracture in MAGA, and we don't want this to happen anymore.
See, I told you this is a real fracture, bro. I told you this shit ain't going away. Many of you were like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is something that they'll forgive and forget. Like, they'll just focus on the next thing when the opportunity presents itself. And it's like, no, dude, no, this is like a major this is a major issue for a lot of people in the base.
Trump says he just doesn't get the hype now.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. Credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin, NBC's senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen, and former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid. Julie, House Speaker Mike Johnson, now the highest-ranking Republican to break with the president on this. What did he have to say?
Well, Johnson had a rare moment, extremely rare, actually. I can't think of a single other instance in which the speaker broke with the president on anything, but it goes to show you just how powerful, potent, and divisive this issue is within the very core of the MAGA base. Johnson, with conservative podcast host Benny Johnson, who kind of set up shop here in the Capitol, and lawmakers were able to just come through and talk and sit in these interviews, had damaging words, not so much for Pam Bondi, but in forcing this issue and kind of letting it.
Dude, boring is my favorite, like, right-wing. Boring is my favorite right-wing distraction term. Oh, you're boring, like Andrew Tate used against me when he was losing the fucking argument. It's just boring. Nobody cares. Come on. Stop it. It's boring. It's boring. Why does anybody care about this? Another kind of right-wing figure that used that deployed that term was my former podcast co-host, Ethan Klein. This is boring. It's boring. Stop it. Stop debating me on the terms of Israel-Palestine. Stop it. Nobody cares. I want this to be entertaining. Don't do it.
Bubble back up to the surface, wanting to see more of those files. Take a listen.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide. I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And you know, Pam Bondi, I don't know when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, they were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody.
That said, as you know, Anna, there's always a difference between what they say and what they do, and Johnson could support an effort to force the administration's hand here, and he didn't. So far yesterday, he did not support a procedural motion from Congressman Ro Khanna, now a bipartisan effort with Thomas Massie as well, to try and set up a vote in which the House would then, if passed, force the DOJ to release these files. Johnson didn't do that.
Do you think there's a power struggle within the ranks of the party? No, not at all. The party is unified under the banner of Trump. There is no, and they're also unified under the banner of protecting the interests of the super wealthy, this being one of those interests. The only like fissure that's taking place is within the base and the party itself. Just like the Democrats were unified under defending Israel, right? There were some people who were not on board with it, but like ultimately it was a big fissure amongst the base that saw what the Democrats were doing with Israel and didn't like it. Okay. And the same goes for the Republicans here. The party is completely on board with Donald Trump. It's just that the people are not on board with the way that Trump has mishandled the people are not on board, and the network of like podcasts and shit that they've used up until this moment to galvanize the base, to whip up support, is, look, see? Breaking, a video is going viral showing JD Vance calling for the full Epstein list to be released on Theo Von's podcast. Hey, JD, what changed? Let's blast this everywhere before he tries to erase it. Theo Von says, yeah, what changed? I'll tell you what changed. I think they got the new marching orders from Israel. That's what changed. Huh? Okay.
Is the possibility.
Also, here's Hakeem Jeffries hitting those notes a little bit, which is not bad.
Now what we see is the possibility that there's a massive cover-up taking place within the Trump administration, because there may be people on the Epstein list within the Epstein files that Donald Trump is trying to protect, who happen to be part of his billionaire cabal. And now what we see is the possibility that there's a massive cover-up taking place within the Trump administration, because there may be people on,
I guess, AIPAC and the ADL and numerous other Israeli groups have not actually told Hakeem Jeffries to shut the fuck up about this, because he's speaking out of turn here. He's even using the terms like billionaire, shadowy, cabal, dangerous, spicy rhetoric. How does he fumble this bag? I mean, so far, so good. So far, we shall see.
Still has an opportunity to, we're told that Khan and Massie are actually trying to collect signatures, 218, to force what's called a discharge petition, enforcing the speaker's hand in placing that vote and taking it anyway, regardless if he wants it or not. But we're not sure yet if it can get to 218 on it.
I mean, John, as the fallout keeps building, the president just responded on Truth Social this morning. He's blaming Democrats for the backlash. He writes, their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker. What should we make of this response from the president?
Well, the full Truth Social post was the length of a Leo Tolstoy book, but had the sort of intellectual consistency of a George Orwell book. This is a president who promoted
that's a big, beautiful boy right there.
Conspiracy theories around Jeffrey Epstein, including one that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton murdered Epstein in jail, which is absolutely insane, and for which there's no evidence because it didn't happen, and has now found himself in a position where he is at odds with a lot of his base. And I think the fallout of this and the danger for him is that it really is the base. It's the grassroots that is angry about this. And we see that in the pressure being put to bear on the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Tucker Carlsons, from both sides, both from Trump wanting them to stop talking about it and from the grassroots insisting that these Epstein files be released.
I mean, John, initially the president tried to stem the tide of this backlash with a post on Truth Social over the weekend. He wrote, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about.
Don't pay attention.
Well, he got slammed for that. That post received more than 45,000 responses, far more than other recent posts. Many of the top comments were expressing frustration with the president. John, does the president really not get it? Is he out of touch with his base on this?
Yes.
Yes, he's absolutely out of touch with his base on this. And in fact, what we've seen is him repeatedly say no one's interested in this, stop talking about it in public comments. He's accidentally fanning the flames of this, but he sort of feels like he has to because it's the only thing that his base is talking about. We heard him once say, famously that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose a vote. But what he's finding out right now is that he cannot ridicule and mock all of his own voters and get away with that and have them sit for it. So I think he's going to have to find a way to repair his relationship with the base on this issue.
He keeps on saying, that it's nothing for them to be worried about. And even in his post this morning, he called them past supporters who are stirring up all of the angst over this. But clearly, it's not just past supporters. It's people who are wanting to continue to support him and are suddenly having second thoughts over this issue. Barbara, yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi dodged some questions about the Epstein files. Let's play her reaction.
He would support you releasing additional credible evidence from the Epstein investigation. Is that something that you are open to doing?
Let me take that.
Just a few months ago.
Let me take that first. This today is about fentanyl, nothing about Epstein. I'm not going to talk about Epstein.
The president said today you would release credible files related to Mr. Epstein. Are you prepared to do that, and when would you do that?
Our memo speaks for itself, and we'll get back to you on anything else. I haven't seen all of his statements today. Thank you.
Barbara, why do you expect that Bondi is dodging these questions?
Well, Bondi herself is right at the heart of this storm. She was the person who released Volume 1 in binders in a very ostentatious display, suggesting that this was the secret file that we've all been waiting for, which turned out, of course, to be nothing more than some very routine, already known materials. And then she said, it is sitting on my desk right now. Now, some thought it meant a client list, which people have been yearning for. She has now backtracked to say, when I said it, I just meant the file in general. I didn't mean to suggest there was anything like a client list. So between Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and others who are now inside the administration, they were the ones who were stoking all of this interest in the Epstein files. And now suddenly they've looked at it and they say there's no there. I think what they're finding is governing is much more challenging than simply spewing venom on Fox News or social media. You have to be able to back up.
Yeah. Governing is much more challenging because when you're on the outside trying to win, you get to say these guys are all pedophiles. But when you're on the inside, you have to defend the pedophiles. Except that's not what she's saying. She's saying that, like, it's all fake bullshit. And that's the reason why they got owned. So annoying.
What you're selling with words. Donald Trump himself wrote in The Art of the Deal that you can only con people for so long. At some point, they expect you to deliver the goods. And I think right now we are seeing that there are no goods to be delivered.
We played some of that earlier sound with President Trump saying that the Department of Justice should release any credible information. That was part of the question that was taken to Bondi. Barb, how do you interpret what the president views as credible?
Interesting how they don't believe anything Trump says until it's something that they also agree with, by the way. This is MSNBC. Under any other circumstance, if Trump said anything, they would be like, oh, obviously the opposite is true. But very odd that in this situation, they're like, well, haha, this is all fun and games, but, like, make no mistake, the Epstein files are actually fake. And it's, Trump deserves to be punished for playing along with these conspiracy heartstrings.
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you what the law is about DOJ voluntarily releasing things. There are some restrictions under DOJ grand jury rules, under grand jury laws, and under the Freedom of Information Act. And so they are not permitted to disclose any grand jury material. Under the Freedom of Information Act, there is an exemption for anything relating to the privacy rights and privacy interests of victims and even subjects of an investigation. So in other words, if somebody was investigated for perhaps being part of this conspiracy to engage in sex acts with underage children, if there was not sufficient evidence to charge them with a crime, it would be improper for DOJ to voluntarily disclose that. Now, Congress can override that with some of these actions that they're talking about, but DOJ is not just not obligated, it is prohibited from producing these things now.
Well, speaking of Congress, Julie, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert had this suggestion for the case.
I think moving forward, we need a special counsel. That has got to happen. There has to be a special investigation into this if we aren't going to be provided information. I want answers, and maybe that takes that special counsel to do so. Maybe Matt Gaetz can lead the special counsel.
Is there any real support for Boebert's idea there on Capitol Hill?
Well, certainly among people like Boebert deep in the MAGA space that support continuing to investigate this issue. I will tell you, though, that even somebody as senior like Jim Jordan, who, of course, chairs a very important committee here, the Judiciary Panel, he is not interested at all in going down this road. He was pressed several times about it yesterday, and he continued to say that he stands with the president and he stands behind what his administration is doing here. But that doesn't mean that this isn't going to continue to be a total sore and pain for Trump and the White House and people who just want to get this and leave this in the past. And that includes, by the way, Speaker Johnson, because he said that in his interview with Benny Johnson. He just
You need to get a pedophile to truly understand the mindset of a pedophile. That's why Matt Gaetz is the perfect guy to do it. It's like Dexter. He's the Dexter of pedophilia. Okay? It's crazy because, like, he knows the environment. I mean, he literally was also doing the same shit in Florida, the same state, only a couple miles away from where Jeffrey Epstein was operating. Yeah, Matt Gaetz, perfect guy to do this, perfect guy to investigate this, considering he has literally the same experiences, pretty much as close to the same experiences as Jeffrey Epstein as you're going to get.
Has to toe the line here, as many of these guys do, in trying not to make their base more angry at this issue, and also trying to fend off Democrats who, even in the Senate, I'm told, are trying to force messaging votes on this very issue.
Nice.
President Trump today angrily denounced the support of anyone in his ranks who cares about the Jeffrey Epstein case, aka a significant number of people in his base who, by the way, elected Trump after he pledged to release the Epstein files, after his surrogate Elon Musk told Tucker Carlson that billionaires were backing Kamala Harris because they were terrified Trump would release the Epstein list. Now, this latest kerfuffle started this morning with Trump's post on Truth Social, where he continued to falsely assert that the Epstein files are some sort of Democratic ploy. He wrote, quote, "Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax."
Nope. No, we won't.
Past supporters.
No, we won't. You are 22 down on New York Times crossroad today? Wait, really? I'm in the New York Times crossword puzzle? Be for real. Is that for real? How can we find that? Spoilers? Okay, shut the fuck up, chatter. It's gonna be like, I need to subscribe, I guess. It's gotta be like Hassan Minhaj or something. And this person is just like hurting my feelings. I can't check it. I'm not subscribed. It's Hassan Minhaj? Oh my God. You dick.
Have bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore, unquote. This same energy continued in the Oval Office this afternoon, where the president said this.
They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had.
It's, of course, not a waste of time to care about the fact that dozens, if not hundreds, of survivors of rape, assault, trafficking, and more have been denied justice in the Epstein case from the jump. Aside from Epstein's own vile crimes, Epstein allegedly helped other powerful people in his...
I like that he says 3 to 4 years because, like, he somehow tries to make this like a Biden thing when Jeffrey Epstein was killed when he was president.
His orbit get away with heinous actions, including sex abuse, sex trafficking, in some cases the sexual abuse of minors. Here's just one portion of a victim impact statement surrounding the trial for Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. One victim, who went by the pseudonym Kate, wrote to the judge, quote, "I witnessed Maxwell's relentless and insatiable drive to meet the sexual needs of Epstein at any cost to the vulnerable girls and women upon whom she preyed and fed to Epstein and other powerful men. The many acts that were perpetrated on me by Epstein, including rape, strangulation, and sexual assault, were never consensual and would have never occurred had it not been for the cunning and premeditated role of Ghislaine Maxwell played." Kate went on to write that the consequences of what Maxwell did have been far-reaching in her life. And this has been, let's just say it, this has been a huge about face for Trump. He's the dog who caught the bus. On a podcast just last fall, he promised he would release the Epstein files.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them. Yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Back in 2019, in Trump's first term, he retweeted a baseless conspiracy theory suggesting that Epstein's death was tied to Bill and Hillary Clinton. The Epstein case is sadly not a hoax, as the president now claims. So what's going on here? Let's go to CNN's Kristen Holmes at the White House. Kristen, Trump has gone from saying,
Bro, how are you not going to show how Donald Trump on many instances wished her well? I'm surprised more people haven't brought up that Axios interview. Because that Axios interview, it says something fucking insane. Hey, thank you, Ren, for the 5 gifted subs. Maxwell family put out a statement. Our sister Ghislaine did not read. We covered this. Did not receive a fair trial. Her legal team continues to fight her case in the courts and will file its reply in short order due to the government's opposition to the Supreme Court. If necessary, in due course, they will also file a writ of habeas corpus to the U.S. District Court SDNY. This allows her to challenge the imprisonment on the basis of new evidence, such as government misconduct that would have likely changed the trial's outcome. Following the government's response, David Oscar Marcus, counsel of record for our sister in her petition to the United States Supreme Court, had this comment. I'd be surprised if President Trump knew his lawyers were asking the Supreme Court to let the government break a deal. He's the ultimate deal maker, and I'm sure he'd agree that when the United States gives its word, it should keep it. With all the talk about who's being prosecuted and who isn't, it's especially unfair that Ghislaine Maxwell remains in prison based on a promise the U.S. government made and broke. Yeah. Does anyone have the video of Trump talking about Ghislaine Maxwell in like incredibly positive terms? If they free her, the Republicans are cooked. I don't think they're freeing her. I think they would. The more likely scenario is that she also has an accident, which would completely brick everyone's brains. Like, yeah, here it is. Here it is. This is the most damning piece of evidence you could show for Trump's possible involvement beyond what he is stating right now. Look at this.
Mr. President, the other day a reporter asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. You said, quote, I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is. Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person well?
First of all, I don't know that, but I do know that.
She has. She's been arrested for that. You know that.
Her friend or boyfriend,
Epstein,
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that
so you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that and
she's a alleged child sex trafficker.
Big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died. He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide? I do. I wish her well.
Like when he says her boyfriend, he's talking about Jeffrey Epstein, dude. Like, does Donald Trump ever talk like this about anyone? Ever? Like, that is crazy, brother. This was when he was president, too.
Everyone should move on from Epstein to saying he doesn't even want the support of people who care about this. That's a lot of people. We should note that in the not-so-recent past, those who cared about this case have included his son, Don Jr., his Vice President, J.D. Vance, his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and on and on. What's the thinking here?
Jake, I'm not really sure there is thinking behind this. A lot of this seems to be unforced errors by President Trump. I've talked to a number of people around him who do believe that they are understanding where the base stands, but it still seems unclear that President Trump realizes what a big deal this is to so many of his supporters. And just to give some clarity here, it's not just the people who voted for them. It's also the big personalities on the right and some really who had never voted before, now part of the MAGA movement, who drew in their supporters, people who have podcasts, YouTube shows, to get them to the polls to vote for Donald Trump in order to release the Epstein files. And part of this, what I'm hearing from these supporters, is they don't really understand why exactly he's made this about face. Here's what he said in the Oval Office today.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
A couple of other things he said, that he has lost faith in certain people because of their belief in these so-called Epstein files, that the Republicans have been duped. Again, as you noted, some of the people who've been placed in the highest roles in his administration, I guess, are some of these same people who were allegedly duped by this quote-unquote Epstein hoax, as President Trump has said. Now, our colleague DJ Judd just caught up with President Trump as he was leaving an event and asked about whether or not he would appoint a special counsel or consider appointing a special counsel. He said he has nothing to do with it. And let's be clear, if someone was going to appoint a special counsel, it would, of course, have to go through the Attorney General's office. But as we have reported time and time again since Donald Trump took office, the Justice Department is operating the least independently that it has in modern history. So, of course, President Trump would have everything to do with a decision about a special counsel here, Jake.
All right, Kristen Holmes, thanks so much. Let's discuss this with two former Trump White House officials. Mike Dubke, former Trump White House communications director in the first term. Jim Schultz, former Trump White House.
Could this work? No, it's not working. These people, there are many people who voted for Trump because they are literally overtaken by his sexual prowess, his charisma. I know that sounds insane, but that is literally why a lot of people just have a cult-like admiration towards the man. But there are far more people that actually voted for Donald Trump because they see Donald Trump as a vehicle to destroy the elites, as a mallet, as a hammer to all of the institutions. They have voted for him, especially like low propensity voters have voted for him because they see him as a change from the way that previous like establishment politicians have ruined their lives, regardless of the fact that he's a billionaire born with a silver spoon and a child of real estate developers. Okay, doesn't matter. They see him as a guy who is anti-establishment, who's against the elites, who is going to be vengeful towards said elites. And for many of those people, their only like class association or class style political opinions revolve around conspiracy. The conspiracy that Jeffrey Epstein has sex trafficked minors at the behest of like societal elites, whether they be Hollywood or you know, massive finance people and politicians and members of the royal family and prominent Democratic and maybe even Republican figures, but mostly Democratic figures, right? Like that's what they see it as. So Trump not doing this is a direct basically directly going against why people voted for him, and it's showing people that like he is not an anti-elite guy. Tax cuts for the wealthy and deregulation do not read to the base of MAGA as a pro-societal elite moment. This, on the other hand, does read as a pro-societal elite moment, that Trump is a part of the elite squadron. He is defending their interests.
A lawyer. Jim, you've worked with Trump on a very personal level. Explain to us the mindset here and what you would advise him as his lawyer to say right now.
So in terms of what folks are thinking here, and you know, not to get to the crux of this, I think we need to be more concerned, less concerned about MAGA, more concerned about the victims associated with these cases.
I agree.
Right? When you saw people walking around with the binders outside of that, I thought how many cases on behalf of victims on a pro bono basis. I'm thinking, what are the victims thinking at this moment with people walking outside the White House, reporters with these binders purportedly containing information? They don't know what's in those binders. They don't know what's going to come out. And purportedly containing information, the trauma, we have to think about the trauma that those folks are going through, those women are going through, who had been abused, who had been purportedly trafficked, and you know what their reaction is to that issue. And I think we're losing all of that. The news media is losing it. The White House is losing it. The Attorney General lost it when they paraded around with those binders. And I think MAGA is losing sight of that too. And the Democrats in Congress are doing the same thing. They're politicizing something that's traumatic for folks. And this needs to be governed by and through the court system. And judges need to help make these determinations by and through the Department of Justice if it's something that's going to be released.
I totally agree with you, and that's why we interviewed the attorney for some of the victims yesterday, and it's why I already mentioned them. Mike Dubke, let me ask you, Notwithstanding the point that Jim just made, this is now a political crisis for the president of some sort, at least with his base. Laura Loomer, who is a conspiracy theorist and somebody that I'd rather not even mention, but she has the ear of the president. I mean, she suggested some firings in the National Security Council, and he followed through. She told Politico that she worries that his handling of the Epstein case could consume his presidency. She said, quote, obviously this is not a complete hoax, given the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison in Florida for her crimes and activities with Jeffrey Epstein, who we know is a convicted sexual predator. Loomer told Politico, that's all true. This is why I said, and I'll reiterate it again, the best thing the president can do is appoint a special counsel to handle the Epstein files investigation. Again, that she sounds reasonable there. She's not a reasonable person, but still, that
she's also a leader within this movement.
That's exactly
and so what she says on this topic matters.
Yeah.
And to Jim's point, this is a political story now, like it or not. The courts are almost secondary to what is happening. I frankly am surprised I'm not surprised that the president doubled down or even tripled down on this, because one of the superpowers of Donald J. Trump is that he runs into fire and survives almost every time. In this instance, though, this is a
lit this fire.
Well, he didn't necessarily light this fire, but he did stoke it.
Yeah.
And as did his supporters. But they stoked it for a really good reason, because a lot of what he won on, one of the reasons that his base loves him so, is because he points to powerful individuals that have been lying to the American people. That whole story, including now sex, is wrapped up in the Epstein case. So I am surprised that he's trying to be dismissive of this at this point, but I think he's playing to his strength, which is running into this. I don't think it will be successful.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have, you are going to continue to talk about it, as will others. The Democrats will not let this go. And frankly, a good chunk of his supporters will not let this go. And this is going to affect the midterm elections. And this is now a purely political story.
A lot happening this morning. And what I'm going to try to do this morning is I seek to explain. I'm going to try to explain the best of my ability what is going on here.
Charlie Kirk yesterday said he's no longer going to talk about the Epstein stuff, and he's going to trust his friends in the government. Remember, I know Adam Friedland is doing an episode with Harry Sasson. I know, my goat. Both of my goats getting together. Two guys who fuck, okay? Two guys who simply have sex. That's it. We'll watch it. We'll watch it later. Charlie has advice about the Epstein files. Mr. President, the emphasis on Epstein is truly the best intentions of our most loyal followers is because we want what's best for the presidency. People are talking about Epstein because they love Trump. We are fearful the same people who try to kill Trump, impeach him, and throw him in prison were behind Epstein. Epstein represents a symbol of an out-of-control shadow government, and this is a chance to bring it to heel. What should Charlie's move be if he were just backing Trump? Avoid it or never talk about it? I mean, the best case scenario for Charlie is to never talk about it. But it's impossible for him to never talk about it if Trump is talking about it. Trump, ironically, is breathing life back into the story over and over again with his inability to let it go, which then obviously provokes response from his most loyal fans. And Charlie, much like myself, cannot be sheltered from that. Like, Fox News can get away with not talking about certain things. Charlie, on the other hand, can't, because this is the biggest fucking issue. And it's going to be such a prominent issue, and he's so accessible as opposed to like a Fox News commentator or a CNN commentator, because it's going to be all over his fucking comments if he doesn't say anything about it. And his goal is to basically be a vessel for Trump and sometimes deliver information about what the base is demanding to Trump, and in other instances, message at the behest of Trump. So he's now stuck in this unique paradigm where he has to not talk about this shit, but then when Donald Trump talks about this shit, well, what are you going to do? You have to address it, because now Big Daddy, Big Papi is addressing it on the main stage. So he's trying to do the same thing as like Alex Jones almost. But of course he is whereas Alex Jones is like clearly on the side of the people because he's like more beholden to his audience. Charlie is more beholden to the administration because he has a direct line of communication with the president.
When in regards to Epstein and the message.
Damn, this guy's good.